my lawyer?
Says here you, robbed a hospital? Why'd you do that?
Yeah, I'm not guilty.
That's not what the other lawyer said.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I'm your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. And with me today is Mr. Robert Gruler, Esquire. How you doing, man?
What's up, Nick? It's been a long time, brother. Thanks for having me on, man. I think the last time we talked, I think it was Chauvin era. So it's good to be back with you. It's been a while.
Yeah, it is. It has definitely been a minute, but I'm always happy to have you on the show. Love your insight. And I'll say it now at the beginning for the people who are going to watch later, because people will filter in. But I'll say it again at the end. Guys, if you have not checked out Watching the Watchers, Robert Gruler, Esquire, click on his name in the description of this video, and it will bring you to his channel. You got to subscribe. You got to check him out. Very, very sharp guy, practicing criminal defense attorney. So he's got a lot of insight on topics like Kyle Rittenhouse. Got his own insights on Kyle Rittenhouse as well, and that's what we're here to talk about. I wanted to catch up with him and see what he's been watching this week, because I've been watching here, so I haven't been following a bunch of other people's content. So unless they've been here talking to me, I'm in the dark, man. So that's why I brought him, and I'm hoping he can shed some light on some of this stuff for us.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to be here, Nick, because there's been a lot of people on my channel who've been like, you have got to get over to Rekieta's channel because of your coverage. And I was talking to you about this before we hopped on here live, but you've gotten a heavy dose of Thomas Binger over these last couple weeks, man. And that's
Whoa.
a lot, that's a lot of Thomas Binger. And so there's
any for me it's a lot of Thomas Binger. This guy immediately started pissing me off.
Well, he's so slow, and the thing that I've been sort of ragging on him about is he asks the same question like 35 different ways. Oh, did he have a gun? No. Did he have a knife? No. Did he have a machete or a bow and arrow or a hatchet or any? He just keeps going on and on and on with all these questions. And the long and short of it is I don't think it's been effective at all. And, this is something that I covered, I got cut a lot of my teeth on the Rittenhouse case on YouTube. I was just sort of making videos a year ago to try to, sort of figure out how to communicate in the age of COVID. And I was making videos as a lawyer, practicing criminal defense law. And I was just sort of, analyzing this case. And I made a video back then, and I thought there was no way that this kid could even be charged in August, because of what we saw. I mean, it looked like a clear case of him running away from anybody who was attacking him, actually attacking him. Right. And then it was just this thing of slowly but surely over the year, we saw the probable cause statement come out from the county attorney's office. We're sort of watching what Gravely, the DA, was doing there. And I was always just kind of shocked.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
You're good, man. You're good. Stop me from monologuing, because I'll do it, man. I'll monologue all night. You got to cut me off.
I was just saying it's a baffling complaint. Because and tell me if you felt the same way. But when I first saw the video and I was in the same boat, I'm like, okay, it looks like self-defense. Probably shouldn't even charge this kid. And then they're like, no, they are charging him. And I'm like, okay, so they're going to write up the complaint. They're going to leave out the fact that he's running. They're going to leave out a lot of the details that would lead to self-defense. And we'll see a very biased complaint. And then the complaint comes out and I'm like, yeah, did they contract with the defense to write the complaint? Like, what is happening here? So I was blown away by that alone.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we went through it on our channel, and we went through every single paragraph of the probable cause statement that was written. I forget who wrote that, but it was mind blowing, because it to me, they were referring to McGinnis a lot. Richard McGinnis, he was sort of the key, victim in that probable cause statement. And every single paragraph was him sort of, the statements out of his mouth were what we heard in trial, that largely that Rosenbaum was the aggressor, that Rittenhouse was, yelling like friendly. There were F-bombs being dropped everywhere, that McGinnis was sort of meandering that night. He saw Rosenbaum and others, with a lot of animosity and aggression. And they moved forward with the case anyways. You know, that was, we knew that was
Right.
McGinnis's opinion a year ago, and we still are just sort of plugging along with this thing. It's wild.
Yeah, it's one of those, and I've had Emily Baker and Nate the lawyer on, both former prosecutors. Nate up in New York, Emily in LA, and their takes on this have been fascinating because I come at it from a criminal defense perspective, as I'm sure you do, and
Yeah.
then to have them come on as prosecutors and say basically the same things. It's like, okay, so I'm not crazy. I don't think it's my anti-prosecutor bias coming through. This is really a case where self-defense seems to be something that is by the book, clear-cut self-defense. I mean, we don't have to me, we don't have an edge case here. I saw, not Chauvin wasn't a self-defense thing, but I saw Chauvin as like either they were clearly going to convict her or more of maybe an edge case, but the facts were not great. And you look at the Arbery trial, and to me, I look at the Arbery trial and I go, the facts aren't great here. This one might be an edge case, but I'm leaning on a conviction on just what I've seen so far over there. Although there's a lot of trial left, so who knows? But Kyle Rittenhouse, I've never ever thought that as a matter of as the law goes, that he was going to that he was guilty in any way. I could not imagine a fact scenario coming out based on what I had seen and heard on Kyle that would support guilt. And so far, the prosecution to me has not lived up to presenting that case.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, I think that, you know, I was trying to sort of speculate as to why this whole thing got so far. And I think that if it didn't happen sort of in the middle of everything else that was going on last year, that we may
Yeah.
not have ever seen this charged. You know, it was kind of a weird case. We were in the middle of an election. We know that, you know, Wisconsin's kind of a battleground state. We know that there was this whole narrative about, you know, BLM and, you know, this sort of racial conversation taking place, even though, as I've said many times, Rittenhouse didn't shoot any black people. You know,
Yes.
it morphed into this racial thing in the middle of an election year. And now that a lot of that has kind of evaporated, and now that the pendulum is swinging back the other way, that, you know, maybe cities are looking around going, oh yeah, that defund the police thing was kind of a dumb move. And, you know, now they're kind of stuck with this, you know, crap sandwich that they got to do something with. They've already made all these statements doubling down on this. Binger, you know, this was going to be his career making case. And now, you know, we're seeing it unfold in court, and it's not working out too well for him.
Oh man. So how much of the live coverage have you been able to catch? Because I know you're a busy guy. You've got your own practice that's actually active. Whereas me, I just finished up my last case. It's been hanging around for 2 years. And now I'm like, ha, I'm on break. I'm on break, baby. I'm not taking anything in. And so so I've been able to watch like pretty much the whole thing. But how much have you been able to actually catch?
So I fly through it. I think I've caught probably 80 to 90% of it. I fly through
Okay.
it sort of the way that I do my day, sort of law firm stuff in the morning, show stuff kind of in the late afternoon, evening, you know, kind of times like this. And so I just scrub through it real quickly. I skip most of the stuff that is tell me about your training and experience, officer. You know, tell me
Yeah.
about all that. I can, you know, just zoom right through it pretty quickly. And I think I've caught most of it.
Do you think there's a place for some court reform where they could stipulate to the foundational aspects of a lot of these things? Like, okay, you're bringing a witness. Do we really need to have them name themselves, give their occupation? It's
Right.
like, can we just give a jury a handout on the witness? Here's the dossier of stipulated facts or
Yeah.
something, because it's really tedious to qualify some of these people. But okay, so if you've been watching more than I suspected, which is awesome. Did you see Binger's face on Friday when his co-counsel is just getting demolished on witness after witness, and his face just
So yeah, they both looked deflated that day, man. And they looked like, when you're a kid, you're growing up and you're going to like those soccer games and you see that one kids, that group of like soccer kids, and like they're just deflated. They've just like lost every tournament or something like that. And you can sort of
yes.
feel that energy. That's
I
what
was
I
on
felt.
that team my first
So was I,
year
man. I
playing
know it.
soccer.
So was I. Yeah. We actually named ourselves. We were so bad. We named ourselves the Victims. We were like, 8 years old or something like that. We thought it sounded cool. We were so bad. Our parents let us name ourselves the Victims. But that's what it felt like on the prosecution. And it, you heard it from the judge. Schrader also said, I'm bored with this testimony. Like, where's this going? And they're reading the room. If they're feeling like that, if the prosecutors are feeling like that, the jurors are watching it. And I think, they can sense that this is not good.
I was saying earlier today, I was saying because someone had sent a chat in that was kind of on that exact same line. And I said, if you're bored, the jury's bored.
Right.
And if you're bored with lawyer like commentary over it, like the jury is extra bored at that point, because they're sitting there. They don't have the benefit of any like little comedy or levity. They can't just click away to another window. They're sitting there. And I felt when I started noticing on Friday where that was really hitting me was when the DNA experts started testifying.
Yeah.
But then they brought in the entertainment when the DNA expert blew up their case. Like that was a messy testimony. Or at least that's the impression I got out of it.
Yeah. What remind me about what specifically you were referencing?
Okay. So, the DNA expert comes in and she starts off, she says, we've got 5 swabs basically from different points of the gun.
Yeah.
They had the gun, the barrel guard. They had one of the magazines. They had the trigger area. They had 2 others. I don't remember specifically where they were. One might've been in the butt, of the gun, but, so they go through and she gives like the first 2 are these long odds DNA matches. I think Rosenbaum, they said it was like 70,000 times more likely that it was anybody other than Rosenbaum and like 1.2 million more likely than Huber. And then the next one, it's like 660,000 times more likely that it's anybody else than Rosenbaum and 14 quadrillion more likely than Huber. And then the next one was the magazine and they go, we actually couldn't determine at all if this was Rosenbaum or Huber or anybody else. So it was inconclusive. And so it wasn't more likely that it was anyone. And I was like, wait, so your DNA test to prove that they didn't grab the gun didn't show that they didn't grab the gun.
Yeah.
That's a big problem. And then right after, and that's the same for like the next 2 places. And then Rich Sherfisi, who I think has been doing really well. He brings up a picture of Huber pulling the gun away from Kyle Rittenhouse. And he's like, so, and she shouldn't have been testifying to this picture at all. Cause she has no personal, she doesn't even know if that's Huber and Rittenhouse in the picture.
Right.
And we have, and he's like, so you would agree that he's grabbing this gun, right? Like you could see that. She's like, yeah, I mean, that's what's going on. And he's like, and you didn't get any DNA from this guy that was conclusive, right? And she's like, yeah. So he's like, so you'd have to agree then that the absence of a DNA test does not mean that they can't be grabbing the gun because clearly he's grabbing the gun. She's like, yep. It's like, oh my God.
Yep.
You can just see the prosecution wilting.
Dude, it's like it's been that the whole trial. They were asking questions. There was one question on day 1 when they were talking to Dominick Black, and Dominick Black was the other sort of part of the crew. He was the first guy that testified.
Yeah,
and
Kyle's
he's actually
like best friend.
Yeah, his best friend. They called each other brothers. Kind of, got the gun from him. Maybe without permission or however it's going. He's being charged with a crime as well in the same court out of the same prosecution. And so you talk about testifying under duress with a little bit of pressure and all of those those problems that might stem from testimony like that. But aside from that, Binger asked him a question, and the idea was that Rittenhouse was this reckless kid who was out there running around like a lunatic, and everybody else was, peaceful with no guns or no firearms. And he was just this aberration running around Kenosha. And asks Dominick, says, oh, okay, so, how many other people out there had, AR-15s on their shoulders? And Dominick's like, everybody except one, like all of us had them. Right.
Yeah.
Cause it was a war zone. And Binger, it was like 10 seconds of just silence. Like, oh, that was a bad question. Probably shouldn't have asked that because it makes Kyle look like doing the reasonable thing. He's doing what everybody else is doing because the city got burnt down the night before.
Yeah. He had another moment like that with Corey Washington, who I've been racking my brain on why they brought Corey Washington to the stand. I mean, So they lay foundation for a lot of the cell phone video because he had a lot of the video footage because he was live streaming, and that's a lot of what they used. But we already saw they got some. I like your commentary on this. The cop who testifies and brings in all of the video footage, basically in the entire case that he took none of. Like the entire foundation for this is that he went on the internet and found these videos. And I'm sitting there like, when the hell was this foundation for what actually happened that night? I mean, he could lay foundation and testify that this video exists, but he can't testify this is an accurate representation of the night. He has no idea if it's edited or anything like that. We didn't get a forensic expert in here to show that they verified that the footage didn't have any cuts or anything like that. We got nothing. But anyway, so they bring this guy in, and I got two theories. So foundation for the video that he's kind of commenting on, but he doesn't really testify much around that. And then the only other thing I can think of is it's like they've been trying to make this entire case about race, and every single person, witness, cop, defendant, everybody is some shade of white. And so I think they wanted a black guy. Am I misreading that? Did you see any other reason to have that guy on the stand? Because he was kind of a terrible witness. He's wishy-washy on everything, doesn't seem to remember or know most of anything, qualified every statement. And then my favorite was, it was just like when he asked Dominick Black, he says, well, how many guys did you see with AR-15s that night? 24. Like, that's not a great answer either for the prosecution.
Right. Yeah. Honestly, there's been a lot of that. There's been a lot of witnesses. I'm going, what does this actually go to? And it kind of circles back to your first point about stipulations and what type of stuff has been agreed to and not agreed to. And that's really been kind of messy in this whole trial. Is I don't really know what the agreements have been. I don't know what the stipulations have been. Like, are we going to hear from a coroner about what the cause of death was? Or are we going to hear, about any of these other things, or were those all stipulated to? And if they were, then that means that we've got, a series of stipulations. And so, I don't know if they agreed to allow some of these people to come in. Why was Aunt Huber brought in? What did she have to do with anything?
That's one thing, I'm thinking about it today and kind of processing from Friday. I think the defense made a big mistake with her. I think the defense did, because they clearly brought Aunt Huber in to testify about how great Anthony Huber was.
Yeah.
Like that was, I mean, the way they were going with their questioning. And then the next question was basically leading to this idea. And the jury ended up being out of the room for this, but that he was a hero who ran towards a fire at their home when he was a kid.
Right.
And then the defense says, well, they objected to that question. They should have let it go. Because then when in the objection, they said, okay, well, if they're going to bring that in, judge, we want to bring in his criminal convictions for domestic violence, where he's held his brother, a knife to his brother's throat and stomach, threatened to murder his grandmother if they weren't cleaning up the house. Like, we want to bring that in. And then prosecution withdraws the question and dismisses her. Like that was,
okay.
That was it. And so it's like, they brought her as a character witness for no apparent reason. They have to know this guy. There was a motion in limine on his criminal history, so they know his criminal history. And I think the defense, I don't think they got a bad result. I just think they kind of fumbled a little bit on that one, because they really could have drilled home that this was not a hero. This is a violent guy who's done some really nasty stuff. But
and there was that exchange on that. And I didn't mean to jump off to keep kind of bouncing around all the different witnesses that have been around, but it has been something where it's been difficult to gauge what the purpose of the witness is, because a lot of it just doesn't seem relevant to the underlying. I mean, as far as I've been concerned, this is a case about self-defense. It's about whether at that moment that Rittenhouse pulled the trigger, he was justified in doing that. And whether Aunt Huber thinks that, Anthony's an amazing kid or not, doesn't change the facts. What happened in that 2 seconds of his life, that was a critical moment that justifies or doesn't what happened there. And so when you talk about Corey Washington, yes, he was there. I mean, I thought he was more relevant than at least that officer. Like that officer was just browsing the internet. I was like, bro, I was doing that. I was making videos. I was downloading stuff all over the place. Like
Congrats,
but
you're half of Twitter. There we
well
go.
done. Yeah, we were all doing it, but my point, I was thinking that maybe they just agreed to that. The defense just said, whatever you want. Yeah. Bring them in here, throw the videos out there, throw 25 of them. I'm sure they looked at them. I'm sure that they knew what McGinnis was going to testify to. They may have done interviews with Corey Washington because he was not
not a complaining witness.
No, he wasn't a complaining witness. Some guy there. And, I mean, he was.
Yeah. And they knew that the McGinnis testimony was going to be good for them. I think they at least figured that the Balch testimony was going to be the defense figured Balch testimony is going to be at least neutral, if not positive.
Right.
I think the Dominick Black testimony actually ended up going well for Kyle also. I mean, I know he had some stuff to say. I think I'm not crediting Richards for this because I thought I think he was a little shaky on those first 2 days on his cross exam. I mean, he didn't do a bad job, but I think he could have nailed some things a little better. But Dominick Black, for everything he said, like he did say that Kyle grabbed the gun, and didn't really ask. And then they kind of are like, but you didn't say anything. He's grabbing, he was going in to buy a gun strap. It's like, where's the gun? Like, did he sneak it into the trunk right next to your gun as he's going in to buy the guns? Like, you knew that came across, you knew this, but most of the rest of the stuff he said is like, yeah, I was up on the roof because the whole situation was dangerous. I was scared to be down there at all. Right. Like all of his stuff is leading to this situational fear that everybody should have, almost like a reasonable person might have fear in that scenario and be on edge. And so I thought his testimony went actually okay. Now I'm going to say the first full day of testimony. So after opening arguments the next day, I do think the defense was, I was not happy with the defense that day. I thought they were a little weak, but I didn't know.
That was McGinnis and I think it was the first detective, right? It was McGinnis and then detective
it was the rest of Corey Washington. Cause he started after he started after Dominick Black. And then they didn't finish. So he comes in at the beginning and then it went to the detective.
Okay. The videos.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like a full day of video. That's right. It was like 21 or whatever different exhibits that Binger submitted in. Yeah. It was a lot.
And the problem I had with the defense that day, this is what smoked me up a lot was, they had the video where they kept getting called militia. And I'm just sitting there going, will you object to this audio? Object to this audio. And then the other thing that bothered me was the titles of the video. Since they were using Windows Media Player, those titles would come up every pause, every adjustment. And those titles are not the original titles. And I really, really wanted them to, on cross, just say, who titled those videos? I don't know. Oh, really? Because it's not the title from YouTube. We can check that title right now. It's different. So are you saying you didn't title these videos? Because if you didn't, then who did? Because the person who downloads it titles the videos. I mean, you would agree you're a professional downloader, right? So I wanted that line of questioning. I wanted some objections to the editorialization. And then I wanted that objection again during McGinnis's testimony when they had Yellow Pants Guy basically saying, you raised a gun at me. You waved a gun at me earlier today because that was plain hearsay, non-admissible. This guy's not in court testifying. Why aren't we stopping this? But those were some of the frustrations that I had.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I was a little bit curious as to what happened. Maybe but didn't Richards was actually objecting to those videos at one point, and he let a couple things go, and then he finally objected. And I was like, okay, like at least it came. It felt like it came very late to me, but at least it came. We got the objection on the militia thing, and then Binger, was totally kind of thrown off there. He was, we have to, we can play it, but we got to turn the audio on, turn the audio off, and I thought that absolutely should have been dealt with before we ever got into court. with a
Right.
motion in limine, you know, just to make sure that you can sort of put guardrails around those issues so that he could, you know, and to be fair to Binger, right, so that he could do that, so he can go and make sure his evidence is good,
Yep.
and that the trial can go off without a hitch. But the judge has always been on all of these issues, has always sort of said, like, we'll deal with it when it comes up. You know, I want to hear some of it first, or we'll see it. And so it makes it almost, you know, it puts both sides in a difficult spot. And then I also, before I finish my thought on that, there was also, they broke. This is what I was asking you about. They kind of broke and they came back, and then I wasn't sure what the conclusion on that was, because he then at the end of that day with that detective published all 21 or 37, whatever different exhibits, and says, you know, received, they were all received, and then they were all published or whatever to the jury.
Yeah.
And so I was curious, you know, was it published with those redactions, with the audio, without the audio? Because they're going to have all of those exhibits back in the deliberation room where they can just scrub through all the videos. And if they hear, you know, if they hear every single one of those videos, the people recording it are militia and racist and white supremacist and, you know, all of those things, it's not good.
Yeah, it's like I don't remember exactly what the resolution is, but I feel like what the resolution was kind of exactly what you said. It's almost like they came back, they said, okay, well, we've got no further questions on this video. And then, yeah, he's like, I move to admit all of these into exhibits. And I'm sitting there like looking at Richards like, I mean, you're okay with this? I
Yeah.
mean, I guess, but they had done pre-trial stipulations to the authenticity of all the videos, which I don't know why they did that. And Richards did say that he had reviewed that video. I mean, he objected to the militia commentary. Yeah, he did the one time early right at the first one, which I was like, yes. And then it goes 5 more times. And then he finally objects again. And I'm like, okay, thanks for waking up. But in theory, he actually had reviewed all these and he's seen all the file names, which I think they should have just stipulated the file names of exhibit numbers or video exhibit 1, 2, 3, whatever it is. They could have done that, but he saw that. And yeah, there doesn't appear to have been any requests to deal with it pre-trial. So I do wonder like when they reviewed the videos. I mean, because he should have reviewed them early, but it would also be reasonable for him to review them the day before they're going to come up. So they're fresh in his mind. He can take notes on them. But he should have reviewed them at least prior to that as well and dealt with some of these issues. So I'm not sure there. I didn't see any. I did watch the pretrial motions that came up over the past, the ones in the past month anyway.
Yeah.
And I never saw anything about any of the video content. So apparently they're just allowing it in, and maybe that's a sign of confidence, but I just think that's allowing in a lot of prejudicial commentary.
It is. Yeah, you're right. Like it's not a big deal if they win. If it's not guilty, then it's not that big of a deal. But if they come back on, you know, on guilty on anything, then you're going to look at this and you're going to say there was some sloppy lawyering going on. Now, part of that has been, I think, an excuse because it's kind of a loosey court. You know, I mean, you know, I don't know how, you know, courts where you practice are, but we don't, you know, our judges, they want to get a lot of these issues resolved before a trial starts. They're not dealing with, you know, audio issues, or if they do, you know, they're going to scold the defense for not, you know, not raising this.
Why didn't you bring this up? Yeah,
they disclosed the video to you. Why didn't you object it then? You know, you had it, you reviewed it, you know, what, sorry, it's coming in. Right. And they would sort of, you know, I think penalize the side who's making that late objection, but it makes it difficult to analyze the trial because you don't know what the final conclusions were on some of these really important decisions, like whether, you know, critical evidence can come in or not.
Yeah, it's weird in that respect. But on the whole, I must say I do generally like the judge when he does issue rulings on objections. He seems to be well-founded. We've seen a couple times where he goes back in chambers and brings out the book with the commentary. And he's like, no, here's my reasoning for this. This is right. Like to look at the one book, read the commentary, looks at the more recent book with a different opinion, takes the old book, just throws it in the garbage.
I know. I saw that.
That was fantastic. But
it's not a bad way to run a courtroom. It's just a different style, you know, and I think a lot of people are still watching what happened in Chauvin, and we had Judge Cahill, who was extremely meticulous. I mean, he was running that thing like a well-oiled machine. He had motions out. He'd review them over the weekend, come back with rulings, and you knew exactly what stood on everything, right? This expert witness could talk about this, but not that. And so it made it a little bit more, a little more easy to analyze the whole thing, because now we're still kind of, I think in guesswork as to what's coming next from the prosecutor's case in chief. But what they've presented thus far has not, hasn't set well with me. I'm not sure how they can justify a conviction here.
Especially the last two witnesses were exceedingly baffling to me. I mean, I get why they brought them, but
The officers?
the two family members of the car source, the two Indian guys.
Yes.
And they're clearly like urinating themselves over the fact that we're going to get killed on insurance fraud if we say anything about this.
So I kind of skipped over them briefly. I thought that was another one. Maybe you can fill me in on some of the, I know there's been a lot of sort of back end, like the internet got very upset about their testimony. Like, these guys are liars. Like, they lied on the stand or something like that. And I didn't follow any of that. But the first guy they brought up, he was like, I don't even really work there, or something to that effect. And I'm like,
he was there that day. That's why he was brought in. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine, man. But he said something exactly like that. It's like, well, did anybody ask you for permission to come in here, to come and secure your car source store? No, of course not. I don't even work here. And so that was another example of Binger. It's like, why, or the prosecution, why are you calling these people up if you don't know what they're going to answer when you ask them a question?
Yeah. So the testimony was very weird. So the first guy is Sam and the second guy is Sal. Obvious abbreviations of their names, which are not super long, but I don't remember what they are. They go by Sam and Sal. And the interesting thing is that both Dominick Black and Ryan Balch testified that they talked to these guys about protecting the property, that they gave them I think Dominick Black even said that Sal drove them from where they parked to the car source, gave them the keys so they could go inside, get up on the roof and stuff like that. And then both Sam and Sal on the stand, they're like, no, we didn't ask any of these guys for anything. We don't even know who they are. Never even seen them before. And then they're like, Sam, isn't this you in a picture with them? And he's like, I just thought they were cool. Like, these guys look cool. I mean, I didn't even know what they're doing. They're like, they're on your property. And one of the guys worked for your family. Like,
hilarious.
It was such a weird thing. But yeah, I mean, they've got to be worried about liability, right? And they've got to be worried about any potential insurance claim. Because the second guy, Sal, he's the guy who allegedly drove them there. He's the inventory manager for the company. And they asked, well, how much damages did you have, from this event? And he's like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, how many cars did you lose? We have a report. It's 137 cars. Is that right? I don't know. I have no idea. It's like, my dad did the math. It's like, how many? You're the inventory manager. How can you not know this? And so they came across as very not credible to me. I don't know if Binger had any interviews with them, but like, maybe they were completely different in their interviews. And then once they got on the stand, they got really nervous or something. But that was a bad look.
Yeah. And it was interesting. It was strange. It felt like they had not even talked to these people before. It felt like more like a pre-trial interview to try to, like they're kind of poking around to try to get answers about how to make their case. You do that before you put your witness on the stand, ideally. But it felt like they were going through it. But even then, even if let's say they both come out and they said, yes, we know exactly who they were. We had no idea. We didn't want them on our property. They came on illegally, all of those things. What does that have to do with self-defense and intentional homicide or any of those things? They could have charged Rittenhouse with criminal trespass. They could have, approach the case entirely differently. I just don't know what the point of that one was. And similarly with a lot of the other witnesses, it's like, even if that is true, how does that go to the crux of the case?
Yeah. And I think I think you just hinted at why they brought them on, but it's jumbled and doesn't mesh with the charges. Is the idea, and this isn't a great idea, is that they were criminally trespassing on the property there without some sort of permission, and then therefore he's not justified in defending himself, which isn't actually how that works. Right? Because you can be criminally trespassing on a property and have an unrelated third party accost you and defend yourself legally, and you could be guilty of criminal trespass, maybe. But it's not like the owner came out and confronted them, told them to leave, and they shot the owner and then claimed self defense. That would be a completely different case. This is just some unrelated person running, screaming onto the property like a maniac, gets put down. That is not going to be impacted by criminal trespass. And so it was one of those ones that it's like, it's weird that the prosecution's bringing him up. It's kind of weird that the defense isn't objecting to relevancy here. Like, why are we asking about this? He's not charged with criminal trespass. So clearly the state doesn't think he was there illegally. Otherwise they would have charged him. Why didn't they? And
then, they charged him with curfew and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, they charged him with a curfew ticket, Your Honor. They didn't charge anybody else with a curfew ticket the entire night. They're charging this guy, but they won't charge him with criminal trespass, but they got a guy testifying to trespass facts. These facts have nothing to do with self-defense. But I think maybe the defense is just kind of like, well, let him go. This doesn't, I mean, it doesn't look good to have these guys up there for no reason, maybe, but it is, I mean, it's still a gamble. And to me, you want to condense the facts set as much as possible. I think that's the prosecution's whole strategy, is that they don't have a good set of facts. They know they don't have a good set of facts. So let's bring in as much extra crap as we can and hope the jury goes, man, this kid really shouldn't have been there, and now he needs to go to prison.
Yeah, no, I think you're right about that. There was remember that saying from law school, if you have good facts, pound the facts. If you have good law, pound the law. If you have neither of those, pound the table. And that's something that I've been saying, that's what these guys are doing. They've got bad law, they've got bad facts. And so they're turning it into this sort of, like you said, right? Maybe turn it into a racial thing. You bring in the only black guy who is in the zip code, and, you put him up there and you turn it into a racial thing. You plant that seed in their minds, or you show that Rittenhouse has this pattern of breaking the law. He kind of illegally, almost, but not quite, got the gun. He was under 18. He kind of smuggled that in from Dominick Black, and he was out there on their property without permission, and, all of these things. And so you're sort of trying to set up this sequence of dominoes in the jurors' minds so that they just go, oh, a pattern of lawlessness. And this guy was reckless. And then you convict him, not necessarily on the original charges, but on this, like sort of wrapping everything around the idea of just criminality. And it's disingenuous. It's not what prosecutors are supposed to be doing. Charge him, prove the charges, or don't.
Yeah, it's not quite unethical, but it's really damn close.
Yeah. Yes. It is.
The only reason it's not unethical is because you do have, and I'll say this 100 times as to why this case is not a malicious prosecution. You have two bodies, and you have a guy with severely injured who's been maimed. And it's like without those in this case, if this were like some reduced charge and you had the same shoddy facts, I mean, you'd be like, why are we charging this? This is getting crazy. But Binger's got enough justification, I think, to not be a malicious prosecutor. But man, it seems close, and every witness he brings up is a mess. But you mentioned earlier that we don't really know where he's going to go next, but we have a mild indication, because we know that tomorrow they're calling to the stand Gage Grosskreutz, the third individual whose bicep was obliterated by Kyle Rittenhouse. And I believe that is going to be where the prosecution rests after Gage takes the stand. What do you think about Gage taking the stand? Good, bad, anything we can anticipate that you're kind of foreseeing from either side on this one?
Yeah, Gage, I think, is going to be the big witness, right? He's sort of the only living victim, alleged victim who got shot. And so he's going to he'd probably come in and talk a lot about his pain and, all of the trauma that Rittenhouse caused upon him. And we've seen a lot of that. We saw Aunt Huber, sort of do the,
Yeah.
gosh, I'm so stressed, so stressed.
She
And,
gets
sort
up
of,
to the stand and just is like, oh, this is the most sympathetic looking witness I've ever seen. This
yeah,
old lady with a walker, takes her 20 minutes to get to the stand. She sits down after walking 10 feet. She's panting and breathing. It's like, oh, come on.
yeah, right. I know. And I watched it, and even after every question, it's just like a long pause. Like I'm really contemplating this really emotional question and answer. And like, all right. And that was why she was called. There was
Yeah.
no other reason for it, and he said, even when there was objections to her line of testimony that he was going to be, a hero running into the flames, we're talking about habit and character evidence and all of that stuff. And so not necessarily relevant for her, absolutely more relevant for Gage, and he's going to have an open floor to talk about, all of that stuff, I'm sure.
Right.
Because we've already seen that Richards and they're not going to be, I think, overly aggressive with their objections or anything like that. But I think the theme that the prosecution has been really stoking thus far has been sort of the active shooter savior analysis, that Rittenhouse was an active shooter in their eyes. And so that self-defense doesn't really apply over to him, and that these were heroes. These weren't people who were attacking,
some random guy.
Well, yeah. And somebody using self-defense. This was this was a murderer. This wasn't somebody, who was a hero. And so I think that's going to be the narrative that they try to spin. I'm not sure how effective that's going to be. I mean, we've already seen, I don't know, 10, 12 other witnesses, or at least 6 of them, who've all kind of hinted the same thing, that Rosenbaum was a primary aggressor, that, Rittenhouse was running around all night, rescuing people with his medical supplies, and so you might bring in one Gage Grosskreutz, but you've got, a whole different smorgasbord of the government's own witnesses who've been kind of telling the opposite story to some degree. So I think it's going to be very exciting testimony to see how he goes. He's obviously he's pissed as hell about this. In a lot of the pretrial stuff, I think his dad and even him were sort of like dropping the bird sort of in those Zoom meetings. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, that was Huber's dad, but Gage did something on his own there.
Okay. Yeah. So that was Huber's dad. Yeah. I mean, so, so he's going to come in hot, and, this is going to be, I think, the first time that a jury sees something from that perspective.
Yeah, that it'll certainly be interesting. I think there's a lot of risk for the prosecution with him too, because he's coming in hot. But I agree that I think the defense is going to let him go and probably not object to him a whole lot. But I think Cross might be pretty brutal. So I'm really looking forward to Cross. I'm guessing Cross isn't going to come till Tuesday. I think they're going to do, effectively 6-7 hours of testimony of Gage on direct, if they can stretch it out, with breaks and all that, and let him tell as much as he can possibly tell to the jury. But one thing you mentioned that they want to get his state of mind about how he's intervening in an active shooter situation. But from your read of the law, does his state of mind, does that play any relevance to the charges on Kyle Rittenhouse?
I don't think so. No, I mean, and this is the point that I've been making on our channel since this all started. A lot of people are saying, well, what is Rosenbaum's mental status? Was he off or on his prescriptions, or did he just get out of the mental hospital? Or even Huber, right? Wasn't he the one who was like threatening his spouses or brothers and sisters or something?
Yeah, brothers and sisters on Huber. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you've got these people that, who really cares what's going on in their mind? It's about a person right then and there, whether it was objectively reasonable for them to defend themselves. And, I think I did read it many months ago when the trial was or when the case just happened. But, the idea being that as long as we're not talking about two majorly separate incidents where I think Kyle Rittenhouse's self-defense will encapsulate the entire night, in other words.
Yeah.
And he was, in fact, in my opinion, being attacked by Huber and by Gage. Gage even had a firearm right there and was actually attacking him. And so I think that provided that Kyle Rittenhouse had self-defense at the outset, I think that carries on throughout the rest of the night. And I'm not sure how they get around that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying at the beginning of the trial. My opinion is that if he wins self-defense on Rosenbaum,
Yeah.
then his state of mind is, I just had to defend myself. The mob is angry at me and I have to get away from them. And he runs towards the police immediately. So his state of mind carries into a self-defense state through the next two, which only happen, I think, a couple minutes later. And there's not an intervening event or anything like that other than him getting attacked as he's running away. So it's like, if they can win on the Rosenbaum self-defense, then it's got to carry to Huber and Gage, because his state of mind is not, haha, I shot this weird, short, bald guy. Now I'm going to go shoot somebody else. Cause that's kind of the theory that they're running with. But the weird thing is, I think the Rosenbaum shooting is considered it's a reckless homicide. It's not a first degree intentional. They charge first degree intentional on Huber. So the weird thing to me is, even if I don't think they will, but even if they got him on Rosenbaum, if his state of mind was recklessness, to transfer that into minutes later being an intentional homicide against someone else doesn't make much sense either.
Yeah. And it's logically strange, because then it's almost saying that, well, you sort of heard some of this narrative coming up from the prosecution, especially when we were talking to, who was it? I think it was McGinnis, right? When they were talking about the falling versus the lunging. Thing.
Yeah, that was a bad look for the prosecution.
Oh my gosh. We spent like 10 minutes on that. And then at the very end of the whole line of questioning, he's like, well, just call it whatever you want to call it. Can we just agree that the momentum was going forward? And you go, yes, dummy. That's what he was saying 20 minutes ago.
Yes.
But the point being that, the prosecution was thinking that self-defense, I think, is something that, well, catch me. What were we just talking about?
We're talking about the lunging and the falling, reaching for the gun. And then this sprung from me talking about winning on Rosenbaum and then transferring to like Huber and the self-defense state of mind, I guess, carrying straight through.
Yeah, I forget where I was going to go with that, but the long and short of it, I think, is that the self-defense doctrine, sort of carries over into all of the other victims. I was trying to think about what I was going to jump off on, but I lost my train of thought. I remember, well, whatever. We'll jump into the next thing, but I am looking forward to seeing Gage tomorrow. So that will be good. And you say that we think he's going all day, and then.
That's my thought. If I'm Binger and going as slow as he is, and I agree, it sure looks like Binger, he moves slowly through things. He's drawing it out. He's making it long. I think what he's going to do is try and drag Gage out for a whole day and cut off Cross until the next day and let the jury just have the prosecution side of Gage's story. I could be completely wrong on that. And I hope I am, because I really don't want to listen to this guy for like 7 straight hours. But we'll, with objections and stuff, it might happen if they get complicated. But yeah, I think that would be the strategy, because he did that on Friday. I mean, Friday was a filler episode in an anime. We're just sitting there like, what is happening here? Why are all these people up there? You don't need a DNA expert. We know Kyle shot these guys.
Yes.
Like, there's no purpose in this. And then we also have the photographic evidence that they grabbed the gun. So you're not going to disprove that. So why are you bringing in this lady to take up an hour of the court's time? Why Huber's mom? Why Rosenbaum's girlfriend? And seriously, why Rosenbaum's girlfriend? Because the defense could have just ramrodded straight through her on Cross. They didn't do it. And they could have, I think if they were crafty, they could have actually gotten all the way back to his child rape charges. And it all started with, why didn't he stay at your place that night? And that was the first question they could have just asked. And she might have said, because he had a restraining order, and he just couldn't. And if that, then, oh, really? Why did he have that restraining order? Why don't you tell us about that? Oh, well, domestic violence. Wow. Did you know he had any sort of violent tendencies. Like you just go back, follow the trail of breadcrumbs, and let the judge stop you if he's gonna, and let the jury go, oh, I wonder what's there. That sounds shady. But I think the defense should have done that. But still, why bring her in? Why bring these two Indian guys who are barely connected to the car source and don't know anything about it, if not to just fill time, pad it out, and load up a bunch of bloat? And I think Gage's testimony might end up being a bunch of bloat, but that's my opinion.
Right. And wasn't he also a prohibited possessor? I mean, he had a firearm. I thought he was a convicted felon, some of that stuff.
I have seen a lot of that on the internet. I have not actually seen any conviction for Gage. Now, he's got a pending DUI charge. I don't know if it's felony level. This is Wisconsin, after all. It takes a bit to get to felony DUI up in the Midwest. But he has not been convicted of that charge. He does have criminal accusations against him. But I have also seen a picture of a carry permit from Wisconsin with Gage Grosskreuz's name on it. So I don't know. One of the things I saw was that there's another Gage with the same name, but different person who does have a conviction. So that might have led to some confusion, but I'm actually hazy on that. I don't know the true fact of that. So I've seen a lot of people saying felon with a gun. I have not been confident enough to say that so far.
Yeah. I don't know either. And again, this is one of those things that's hard to gauge because we haven't seen a lot of the documents and a lot of what they have ironed out before trial started. So I remember back before this all started that there was some conversation about the priors and about whether they could talk about the priors, because wasn't the prosecution trying to get in some stuff about Rittenhouse, something about like a fight at a high school or some other things that sort of, if you can talk about Gage or if you can talk about Huber or Rosenbaum, then the prosecution was going to want to also talk about those things with Kyle. I kind of missed some of that, but
yeah, that was the pretrial motions. There's a video of Kyle's sister gets in a fight with another girl and Kyle steps in to assist her. And so it is a video of him punching a teenage girl in the face. Not great to have played to a jury, even if like me, I'm like, if one of my siblings were in a fight, I would probably want to step in and help them. But but you still don't want to have wrecking some chick on a video. And then the other video is him sitting in the cab of a truck with a friend. They're watching some people that they believe are stealing and walking out of a CVS. And Kyle says something on, man, I wish I had my AR. I would shoot them. Of course, neither of these things are relevant. Binger tried to say they went to his state of mind and understanding of self-defense, which is a ludicrous argument. And that's why it lost. But again, if they're going to get to the stuff on Rosenbaum and Huber, those are, according to the rules of evidence, those are completely unrelated to getting to the character of Kyle Rittenhouse. He has to open himself up to these character issues or prior bad acts issues. They don't just get to come up because, well, if you're going to discredit our witness, we could go after your defendant. No, the defendant gets a little more protection than that. But yeah, that is one of the things they've wanted to do. I'm hoping Gage opens the door. I believe he may have known Huber or something like that. There's some speculation that he will open the door to Huber's character. I don't think he's going to open the door to Rosenbaum's because I haven't seen anything that suggests that they know each other. Seems like nobody knew him. He was an insane man in a hospital just that day. So I don't think we're going to get to his stuff unless something really weird happens.
Yeah, I just don't know. How relevant any of that character stuff is.
Yeah.
To anything, it's like we're talking a lot about that, but something I've been talking about on our channel is the idea that juries want to do the right thing, and so part of what we were talking about previously about sort of that domino effect that the prosecution is trying to show this pattern that Rittenhouse is this monster, constantly breaking the law, constantly trying to inject himself into these situations, has sort of like a hero complex, like he can go solve things, and he's always putting his nose in stuff that shouldn't matter. It's that same pattern, but we're also, I lost my train of thought again, man. I wrote something down and then I lost my train of thought again. I don't know why. It's too late, man. My whole brain is not working right now.
No, I get what you're saying though. We're talking about the domino effect and the idea that that the prosecution is trying to build this case. So that's why they want to focus on the character, is that he is a character of being reckless, of being violent,
Yes.
of intervening where he doesn't belong. And I think that's the big narrative, that the overarching narrative that the prosecution says Kyle Rittenhouse did not belong there that day. And if he didn't belong there that day, then he wasn't there, then he wouldn't have killed two people. He wouldn't have shot this poor innocent Boy Scout, and everything would be fine. And we'd all just have a burned down carcass of a city, and that would be great. Like that's the theme that they're working on here. And I don't know that is actually selling, but it's hard to tell because we can't see the jury. We're not in their shoes. We don't really know who they are. And so we just get to wait and watch, right?
Yeah, I remember what I was going
Sure.
to say. I'm reading the chat, man. And it's throwing me off to it. I'm not ever up this late, and they're like, Rob needs Adderall, and it's absolutely true. Like my brain is just not working anymore. But what we've been talking about on my channel also is sort of, the juries want to do the right thing. And what we're seeing here is some of that conversation taking place. We've got, Guy, and that's why I think people are so hung up on the character stuff. Does it actually matter, to the issue of self-defense? Not really. But what we're talking about, are juries not wanting to screw something up. And we've got two different people in this equation here. We've got, Kyle Rittenhouse, who the prosecution wants to turn into this monster, like you described, this reckless guy who's just running around doing reckless things, versus the alternative interpretation of him as somebody who was out there saving a city that was being burnt to the ground the night before. We even heard from, Officer Pepito, or whatever his name was, that it was a war zone. And, that this was a very bad situation. And so Kyle Rittenhouse, depending on how you want to interpret or look at him, he's on that category. And so, both sides are trying to show him in the best light. The opposite is happening with Gage, with Huber, with Rosenbaum. And so the character evidence, that it's relevant in that the jury doesn't want to go home sending a 17-year-old kid to prison because that might make them feel bad. That's an unjust thing to do. But if they send a 17-year-old murderer to prison, that's not such a bad thing. And so,
Right.
now we're talking about character that's not really relevant at all to the underlying legalities of the case, but it's very important to the emotional, understanding of the jurors. And I think you can come down on Mark Richards and, Corey Chirifisi for not sort of, recognizing some of that. And I've been very sort of cavalier with the idea that, look, it's self-defense. There's 27 videos, show every single stinking angle. I don't care, right? Submit every one of them and let the jury walk, sort of scrub through every video and see time and again that you've got self-defense. Oh, he's running away. Oh, he's running away. Oh, he's running away again. But, but also, they're going to be, the jurors are going to be watching Kyle Rittenhouse shoot somebody and shoot somebody and shoot somebody and shoot somebody 17 times. And man, that does something to, suburban moms out there who watching somebody get shot. And then, 5 minutes later, somebody else is getting shot. And 5 minutes later, somebody else is getting shot. And so even though, they might have this urge to want to acquit Kyle, sometimes people, you get that animalistic emotional urge that, they can't let somebody who killed somebody go free, regardless of what the law says. So
right. And I've already seen Rosenbaum die like 5 times, and the trial's still got a ways to go. And I mean, when I say see him die, like watched his life leave his body in front of me, not just the far away shots. Cause Binger keeps going to that video shot of him sitting there like, and of course he does. Of course he does. He's trying to do exactly what you're saying. So with that, I want to transition briefly. I've got 2 other topics that I want to hit, and this that I think will take less time than the overall case thing. But with the idea that we have a very emotional ploy by the prosecution because they don't have good facts, what do you think about something like either a directed verdict prior to a jury conviction or a JNOV following a jury conviction?
Yeah. So I I actually looked this up. So I pulled this up on Wisconsin's website. So I know you can't probably see my full screen here, but
I can share it if you want to share your screen on
it's super.
StreamYard, you can. But
It's one
or
sentence.
yeah,
It's one sentence. It says right here, at the close of the state's case and at the conclusion of the entire case, the defendant may move on the record for a dismissal. And so I was trying to sort of dig in on that to see if there was anything further in the statute. And I couldn't find much there. So, I don't know if there is anything additional on the law that will give them any, sort of indicia for what a judge can do on this. But in Arizona, we have a similar type of motion in our criminal procedures, as I'm sure you do there. But it's almost exclusively just a formality as far as it works here. You go through the motions at the conclusion of a criminal case. I've had it granted one time, and it was kind of a fluky case. It was one time where there was it was a criminal traffic case, and they just forgot to identify my client. Like, that was it. So they went through the whole thing. He was speeding, driving recklessly, all this stuff. Okay. But they just didn't say that it was your client who was, they basically didn't identify him in court. Right.
sure.
So the whole
Bit of an
thing,
oversight.
little oversight. They did the whole thing. Yeah. He was going speeding and the whole thing. And so at that moment, I said, Judge, that's all well and good. But I mean, based on all of the evidence here, they cannot prove that my client did it. Somebody they were talking about may have done that, but there's been nothing here that, implicates my client. Didn't check his name or ID or any of those things. And it was just a total boneheaded, mistake. And that was basically the only time, right? Every other time that I've ever argued for it, it's, if there's even just enough, the judge just says, okay, well, thanks for your motion. We're going to, let this continue forward, especially if it's a jury trial, because the judge just doesn't want to take it out of the jury's hands and, be responsible for all of that baggage. So I'm not sure that the judge is going to go, let me reframe that a little bit. A week ago, I would have said, absolutely not. No way, never. Today, though, it's like, shoot, maybe.
That's where I was, because people were asking me about it, first day. And I'm like, no, not a chance, not on a case like this. But now I'm watching the prosecution bring their case. And again, maybe the defense is building this into the strategy. And I'm not saying it's a good strategy, but it is a strategy with letting everything in, not really objecting, is they could go, basically appeal to the judge in a summary judgment type fashion. Judge, we've seen all these facts. There's no way you can conclude that this is not self-defense, or that there's not a reasonable doubt for self-defense here. I mean, we've got direct testimony from people that this man is screaming at him and reaching for a gun. I don't think they win on all the charges, but I think there's now a non-zero possibility that they can get dismissal on the major charges that involve the self-defense shootings. And that would be a huge, huge win. And I'm where you are. At the beginning, I'm like, no, not a chance.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, maybe a chance.
Yeah. Well, they had,
shot.
yeah, man, they had that Ryan Balch, right? He even testified that Rosenbaum directly said, if I see you again, I will kill you, right? To him and to Rittenhouse. And you go, okay, well, that's pretty good mens rea right there. And
yeah,
then
no, it was even better. It was, if I get you alone, and then Kyle's alone. It's like,
right.
What's he supposed to think if that happens? And then my favorite moment in the trial so far is still Richie McGinnis. And Binger's like trying to do the tough guy grilling him. Like he's trying to go after his own witness, which I think charging and bringing him as a complaining witness was a big mistake, personally.
Yeah, I agree.
But so he's going hard at him, and he's like, so you couldn't know that at that point in time, or at any point in time, really, what was going through Rosenbaum's head? Could you? And he says, well, he did scream, I'm fuck you, and reached for his gun. And I was like, it's the worst answer Binger could have drug out of him there.
So yeah, such a mic drop moment there. And I agree with you. Honestly, in that entire testimony, did Richard McGinnis ever say that he felt like he was in danger, or
he did a little bit. But it was very equivocated. right? Because Richard McGinnis works for Daily Caller, and I think works for Tucker Carlson. He is, and he's their complaining witness on most of the complaint, and that's why the first part of the complaint is so like full of he reached for the gun, all this stuff. But he did say that guns in general he felt brought danger to a situation, which I was a little annoyed by. But he's from New York, so I guess it's bred into him. And the other time, Binger was trying to get him to say exactly that. And he was like, so when Kyle shot, you felt like you were in danger. And he's like, he kind of hesitates. And he says, yeah, I think he said, were you in danger? He's like, well, I mean, he was shooting at the guy and I was behind him. So I guess I was in danger. But it was a couched response. It was not like I felt terrified when he raised his gun that he was going to hit me. But he had originally thought that something might have hit him in the leg. And look, I don't know about being shot. I'm not a shootee, so I can't tell you. But I feel like I would know if I was actually shot in the leg versus thinking I might have been shot in the leg.
Yeah.
But if someone's actually been shot in the chat, and I know I've had a couple of viewers who have, maybe let me know. Maybe the body shock kicks in and you don't know. But I feel like there would be a different set of circumstances happening.
Yeah, somebody said menacing, right? Didn't he mention that somewhere, I think? And there was an interview, because you know, that's the other way that this whole thing can go. You know, you don't have maybe the intentional homicide charges, but he loses on some of the other charges. And the reckless endangerment, right? That's not a homicide charge, but it's still a pretty serious felony charge. And if you have an angry prosecutor there and the jury says, well, you know, maybe the thing that scares me is sometimes juries don't, you know, they want to split things. They don't want to go all or nothing. So they want to, you know, maybe not get him on everything, but they'll convict him on some of the lower level offenses. And if they get him on a reckless endangerment charge, then you have, you know, Thomas Binger or somebody like that who's asking for the max sentence just to, you know, kind of score a political point. I think that it's probably a long shot there, but even if that did happen, the judge, you know, is not going to sentence Rittenhouse, you know, anywhere near the max. So I think you're pretty safe there.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, so the other topic that I wanted to hit, and then I do have some super chats that involve you, so I want to get to those too.
Yeah, sure.
But I mainly want to respect your time because, like I said, you have a real job or whatever. Ridiculous.
Yeah. It's a little late. It's why my brain stopped working, and I apologize for that. But yeah, you know, it's good to spend time with you, man. I'm a huge fan of your show. I love the work that you're doing, and so I'm happy to be here.
But have you seen the video of George Floyd's nephew? I have not watched it actually. I've just seen the clips of it and what the summary, but he is basically saying that he has information that there are cameras in the courtroom taking pictures of the jurors, and that he is calling for the same verdict as in Chauvin. Otherwise, the jurors will be doxxed and threatened. What is your take on that whole scenario?
So I also have not seen the video, but I think I just saw something on Twitter with the headline. But if you're summarizing that accurately, that sounds like illegal, right? That sounds like
super
jury
illegal.
Tampering. Yeah, it's pretty illegal as far as I can tell.
Yeah. Now the question I have, because I'm trying to temper this expectation that people might have on something like this, because you're talking about a guy who's not in any way involved in the case, is not an agent of the state of Wisconsin or something like that, as far as I know, talking about a potential that unnamed people have this thing. And he could possibly be in trouble for jury tampering. But do you think it would have any effect on the case at this point? Because for me, I'm like, without more, I think the judge says, well, thank you for letting me know. We have to keep an eye on this. Maybe he puts an order that the only cameras in the courtrooms are the ones from the news media feeds, and he puts some sort of gag order on the rest of the stuff, and they start checking for cell phones or something. Yeah. But I can't. It in theory could be eventual grounds for a mistrial, but I think at this point, this is so attenuated that it doesn't get there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we don't really know what their protocols are. I don't know. Like, for example, I don't know if they are absconding with cell phones or prohibiting people from using anything like that. But yet you can we can even see from the video footage inside the courtroom, it's pretty, it's pretty open. If somebody were there with a cell phone, you could imagine them being able to snap photos.
Right.
But I agree, it sort of sounds like bravado. Could he really make good on any of those threats? I don't know. But one photograph on the internet certainly could catch fire, right? If there was a picture of a juror, like if that happened, if one image went up online and we got to see what they all look like, I think that would be different.
That's got to be a mistrial.
Yeah, I think at that point it would. But right now it's just, it's some guy kind of, running his mouth, even though we know the judge pays attention to some of that stuff. Remember,
yeah,
he said something about.
That's been funny watching him read the news and see, because this is a judge. It's he's been practicing forever, and he's old enough that he probably still really respects a bunch of newspapers. And this is probably the first time in his life where a concerted media effort has come down and said, "Oh, this is what he's doing." And he's like, "That's not even like, you can have your opinions, but that's not what happened in court. That's crazy." And that's been funny to watch for me.
Yeah, I kind of got the impression that he was sort of surprised by the media attention when he first, because I think it was like on the second day, he made a comment that somebody said something on TV about my other opinion, and that hurt my feelings a little bit. It was kind of like that. And I was like,
I was absolutely right on that. They reversed me, but then they reversed themselves on what they told me to add.
Yeah. Yeah. He needed to make sure he got his point, his point across. But, I honestly, I think that, the way that this judge has just been kind of handling his courtroom, it's been very, very loose. So, unless there's something direct, you heard him say that it's, 1 in 100, maybe, that he sequesters the jury, if that, and so I'm not sure that we're going to see much intervention on anything like that, unless it really raises to a level that, he's got no choice.
Yeah. I think it would have to go a lot farther than it's gone now, to impact Kyle's case. Now, again, it's one of those statements that what the hell are you doing? I mean, you're threatening. I'm presuming that the nephew is in Minnesota, where Floyd's family seems to be based. Or maybe down in Texas, even, where Floyd was originally from. I don't know. But if he's not in Wisconsin, you're threatening an officer of the court across state lines. That's when you get a knock from the FBI like that.
Yeah.
You're posting this online. It has caught the attention of a bunch of people. It's going viral. That's a we have some questions for you.
Yeah, and they don't play around with that stuff here. They have a crime here in Arizona called interference with judicial proceedings. And, if it's a jury and stuff like that, man, they'll hit you with a felony for that. It's no joke. I mean, it's not something to be cavalierly posting on the internet.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, thank you for that. While I've got you here, let me hit some of these super chats. And then, guys, I'll be staying here for a little while. I've got a bunch of super chats from earlier today to read too. Still catching up after the Friday fiasco. On Friday, I drank like 60% of a bottle of whiskey. It was not a good day.
hey, man, look, man, you earned it. I was, a lot of Thomas Binger going on in your world, and so
that'll
you
do
deserve
it.
You deserve
that'll do it. Did you see his co-counsel's the big guy? I can't remember his name.
James Krause.
Thank you. There was a moment where he looked at the judge, and he had just gotten overruled, and he looked at the judge like he was going to walk up there and beat him. And I was like, "Oh, say something, well, please say something."
Did you see the judge kind of scolded him too about that? It was right in the middle of that Aunt Huber testimony, because he got caught, right? Sort of like I did twice here on your show tonight. The judge sustained that objection, and then he said, "Well, there's habit and character evidence. We've been using a lot of this." And the judge said something, and he got snippy with the judge, and the judge responded back and said, "You don't need to comment on my rulings," and then immediately sent the jury to lunch, like right after that. I was like, "Ooh, he's in trouble."
That was the judge catching himself before that guy ate a contempt charge.
Yeah.
He was, you don't want to judge calling a recess right after yelling at you.
Right. So to protect you from the jury, so that you don't embarrass yourself, because the jury's going to have to come back out.
Right. That was great. AJ says, please challenge Robert, on the Officer Garrett Rolfe shooting in Atlanta, Georgia, you, Logic, and Nate the Lawyer agree it was a good shoot. Mr. Gruler disagrees. Ooh, that's the Rayshard Brooks.
Oh, Rayshard Brooks, Garrett Rolfe. Yeah, I remember that shooting. Oh, yeah, that was the one where Rayshard Brooks was running away. Didn't they shoot him, what, like 20 yards away, something like that? And he had the already spent
he did fire the taser. One of the taser chambers was spent, and then he fired the second chamber, but he missed.
Did he fire the second one?
That's what I remember on the facts.
Yeah, I don't recall about that. My take on that one was the guy wasn't a threat anymore. He was 20 yards away or whatever. He was shot, I think, running away in the back. And so, I'm a defense attorney, and I'm gonna side on I think I'm gonna stay on that side on that one.
No, and that's actually I think based on how Georgia treated tasers just the exact same month, that's where I come down and say they said tasers are a deadly weapon. In fact, they just charged an officer for using a taser on someone, charged him as using a deadly weapon. So then for the same DA to come around and say, no, tasers are not a deadly weapon, that's where I had a problem with it. And I haven't watched the video in a long time. I thought he was not retreating at the time they pulled the trigger, but I could be wrong on the timing on that too.
So if I remember, it was sort of both. He was turning around. So he was sort of running away and turning around, I think, when he got shot. But I just, I didn't see it from an officer's perspective as being in imminent threat of, oncoming death or serious physical injury at that moment. There were two officers. He was running away. Even if he would have hit one of the other officers with the taser, you still have another officer. And I just didn't think that it would have been justifiable just from a use of force perspective. The taser thing, I can understand that. Again, it's less than lethal force in most departments. That's why it's not a gun, right? It's a taser for that reason. And
ask
so
Kim Potter.
Who's that?
Taser.
Oh, Kim Potter.
Shit.
Oh my gosh, Kim Potter. Yeah, Kim Potter. Yeah. I know, man.
No, I think your opinion's reasonable. Like this is not one that I'm not like out there like, yeah, we need to convince everybody that this is this. I think he'll walk on it. So but yeah, I do. But we'll see. And again, I haven't reviewed the video in a long time, so there could be some serious nuance to it.
It's been a long time. I mean, look, everybody's got to sort of recognize it when it involves, a police officer shooting somebody. I'm going to be probably defaulting on the side of the person who got shot, unless it's pretty justifiable. I think that police, they're supposed to be reserved. They're supposed to wait till that last minute, and I understand that puts them in a very precarious position, but we hold them to that high standard. They make their money being reserved. That's where their heroic, sense of existence that we all have for them comes from. It's that restraint. So that's just kind of the standard that I think through.
No, and like I said, perfectly reasonable position. Marty Lund says, hey, Robert, thanks for dropping by Nick's stream. I blame you for this ridiculous Indian summer in the Valley. If I don't get through the whole stream tonight, I guess it'll keep me company on the 101 in the morning.
Love it. Well, shout out. Yeah, that's Arizona. It's been actually a pretty reasonable summer here.
Yeah, it was real hot in Minnesota for a while, and then fall was beautiful.
Yeah,
it was absolutely phenomenal. We even today was a little chilly. It was like 57, but yesterday it was 65. And I'm outside. I'm like, it's November. This is the greatest November of my entire life.
Yeah.
I need to move to Hawaii. Slaglust wants me to do this as Kermit, so I apologize.
No, you're good.
Rob, we need a credential check. Confirm you're 5'1", a super lawyer, and you have a suit fit for an Applebee's waiter. If you say yes to any of these requirements, you win a Mountain Dew. Okay. Are you 5'1"?
No, I'm not.
Are you a super lawyer?
I was. I'm not sure if I still am. Super lawyers is is, one of those registries.
Lawyer advertising.
I was at one point. I don't think I've paid for that again, but at some point historically, yes.
Do you have a suit fit for an Applebee's waiter?
Probably. That's probably true. Yeah. I've got a lot of poorly fitting suits, so I probably do.
There you go. Oh, real bit. I am never going to remember this guy's name. Co-counsel for the prosecution again. When he sits down like this, brooding over whatever's happening, and his suit is like coming up over his head like a king cobra hood.
Yes.
I'm like, buddy, you got to fix that that seated posture. To me, it's one of those little things. He looks dumpy in front of the jury when he really shouldn't. It's like, because I think his suit is getting caught on the chair. It's like, no, sit forward and then move yourself back into the chair so your suit is not doing that, because it looks terrible.
There's a lot of that going on. Even Mark Richards, sort of lounging all over the chair. I'm like, it's good to be loose in the courtroom and feel at home, but
I sit at the table with my hands folded in front of me and my face forward, and I just watch, listen, know, and lately with my last hearing, we had the masks on, so I didn't even have to do anything. But I try and keep my face pretty much flat and neutral, unless the judge cracks a joke, then you laugh no matter how bad it is.
Right.
Russian Lettering says Andrew Branca in his latest video hypothesizes that maybe the prosecution goes for any trace of unlawful conduct and or intent to cause harm to trigger Wisconsin 939.482, i.e. no privilege of self-defense. I mean, yeah, that's what they're going for. For a brief refresher for the chat, that's just if you provoke an attack, then you lose the privilege of self-defense until you retreat. The problem with that whole argument is that Kyle Rittenhouse was clearly retreating in all three scenarios. So that complicates that analysis quite a bit. He was retreating with Rosenbaum until and we have testimony on this, walked into a place where his back was against the wall because there's like a corridor of cars, and then he couldn't go any farther. That's according to Ryan Balch. Or no, Richie McGinnis. He says it didn't look like he could go any farther. That's when he turned and shot. And then we have him clearly running from Huber and Groskowitz until he's on the ground and no longer able to get away. And I assume it's the same down in Arizona, but any duty to retreat up here, which we have a limited sort of thing in Minnesota, but back against the wall is the standard. And courts have found, wherever I've looked, that on the ground is the same as back against the wall.
Yes, So I love that analysis. I think that's right. There was another statute that I was trying to sort of rack my head around that was talking about something that if you sort of break the law or you're in violation of the law, that you lose the right of self-defense. And I wasn't sure if that was out of Wisconsin or another spot, but that's what I thought that they were trying to do with even this curfew violation. So the curfew violation itself, right? They could prove that case easily. And then if they found a different statute that says, if you are already in violation of the law, I think there may have been something that said that if you're already in violation of the law and you use a firearm, you can't get to use, any of the self-defense provisions because you're already illegal. You're already violating the law to some degree. I'd have to look into that statute a little bit further. I sort of remember reading something about that if you sort of pop the balloon, and you can't do anything with it. But
here I've got the relevant section pulled up. So it's just these three, A, B, and C. Provocation affects the privilege of self-defense as follows. Person who engages in unlawful conduct of a type likely to provoke others to attack him or her and thereby does provoke an attack is not entitled to claim the privilege of self-defense against such attack, except when the attack which ensues is of a type causing the person engaging in the unlawful conduct to reasonably believe fear of death or great bodily harm. In such a case, the person engaging in the unlawful conduct is privileged to act in self-defense, but the person is not privileged to resort to first useful or intended or likely to cause death of the person's assailant unless the person reasonably believes he or she has exhausted every other reasonable means to escape from or otherwise avoid death or great bodily harm at the hands of his or assailant. So that he to me, with that analysis, he gains it back. And B says a privilege lost by provocation may be regained if the actor in good faith withdraws from the fight and gives adequate notice thereof to his or her assailant. This doesn't apply to deadly force, so that doesn't matter. Person who provokes an attack, whether by lawful or unlawful conduct, with intent to use such an attack as an excuse to cause death or great. So if you provoke with the intent to just use it as a justification, that's not privilege of self-defense. That's premeditation. So that doesn't count. So yeah, I still and Bronca's a very smart guy, use of force expert, knows a ton about self-defense, and he may be right, but on the law, Kyle should still be good in this scenario.
Yeah. So scroll up just a little bit on that. So like look under subsection. So is that all part of the same? Okay. So like see under subsection B. So
okay, here we go.
So right above 2, it's little b1. It says the actor wasn't, so it doesn't apply if the actor was engaged in criminal activity or was using his dweller to further a criminal activity. So if
they determine that a curfew violation or minor in possession are a sufficient criminal activity, then that would defeat his privilege of self-defense. I can't imagine that those two are what are contemplated by the wording of the statute. To me, I think engaged in a criminal activity is an intentional act like a robbery, right? An assault, a rape, another murder.
Right.
I could be wrong on the statute. And if that's the case, I'm sure we'll see some, if they get a jury instruction on this, that would be the question. Are they, and they haven't argued about this jury instruction yet. And the judge, I don't think he mentioned this in his original jury instructions, but we'll probably get the clarifying jury instructions after closing. But if this is included in the instruction, I think there's going to be a big argument over it with the attorneys.
Yeah, I agree that. Yeah. And that is, I think, troubling, but I don't, I agree with your analysis. The analogy that I was using, right? If you were at a bar and you walked up to somebody and you smacked them in the back of the head, and then they turned around and wanted to punch you in the face, and then you shot them and you said self-defense, he was going to hit me. That's what that's talking about, right? Yeah. You started it, you assaulted him, and then he responded. You no longer get to use self-defense in that capacity. But being under 18, the curfew violation that was already taking place with everybody else out there as well. And then you also have sort of what I was mentioning previously, that jurors are not going to want to send a 17-year-old kid to prison for life because the first domino was a curfew violation. And they're going to follow all these legal technicalities to say self-defense doesn't apply because the law is written that way. I just don't, I can't see them.
There's another distinction here. So the presumption described in paragraph AR does not apply. So this is actually an AR. If the actor intentionally used force that was intended or likely to cause death or great bodily harm, court may not consider whether the actor had an opportunity to flee or retreat because he or she used force, and shall presume that the actor reasonably believes the force was necessary to prevent death or great bodily harm to himself or herself if the actor makes such a claim under sub 1 and either the following applies. This is Castle Doctrine. So this is actually just the elimination of a presumption in the Castle Doctrine specifically. So it's even more attenuated here because Kyle is not at home or he's not in a dwelling and he's not in his place of business that he owns or operates. I guess maybe you could say that he's in the car source as an agent of car source, but even so, this is just a presumption, and that's the elimination of the presumption. But I don't think that anybody's under the, again, with Rosenbaum, I don't think anybody's under the presumption that he was privileged from a duty to flee because he fled. So the presumption's irrelevant to me anyway. And
yeah, I agree with you. I read that a while back and I didn't think that it made any sense, but you can sort of see if you go back through the prosecution's timeline, you can sort of see how the different pieces might fit. You've got, Kyle Rittenhouse maybe kind of stole this gun unlawfully, curfew unlawfully on car sources, dwelling, their property without permission to be there. And so, if they could squeak that in front of the jury or make that argument to show that there was this consistent pattern, maybe it's enough to confuse the jury to overlook self-defense.
But I want to reiterate, the jury instructions that the judge read initially didn't have a wink about this section. So Branca may be right, and the prosecution may argue for that jury instruction after close, say, hey, we established this and this and this, therefore we want this jury instruction. That'll be a big argument. And until that argument is made, I think right now that section isn't big. But again, I think Branca is probably accurate on what the prosecution is trying to do.
Yeah.
And generally we've talked about that. That's the overall theme of what they're doing. Eddie Oliver says, hi, Rob, my two favorite attorneys together at last. Hey, cool.
Love Eddie. Yeah. Eddie hangs out over with us all the time. So shout out to Eddie.
John Stern says, clerk to Gage Grosskreutz swearing in on Monday. Please raise your right. Oh, wait. Wolfgang Deo says, hey, Nick and Rob, great week for you guys? ? Yes, for me. And he says, do you two support the LGBJFB community? Actually, you got that wrong. It's the LGBFJB community, Wolfgang, you bigot. He says, also, Rob, does Nick prefer one ball balls or no balls on Fuda? Oh my God.
I think we talked about that last time.
We did.
Yeah.
We did. Justin Tristano says, hey, Robert. Hey, Nick. Good to see you both here together. After a year and a half of garbage contract work, I finally have a full-time job working for a school district. Thank you so much for the late night entertainment.
Hey. Congratulations.
Way to go, man. Mandy Karavikis says, Robert, why can't Nick have nice hair like yours? Can you give him any pointers? Please pity Rekida's struggle.
It looks pretty good. You got that nice facial hair too. I can't do that. This is all I got.
Yeah, yours looks terrible. How dare you? Very embarrassing. So it was so fun. I'm on Twitter and there was something where I think we were each tagged, and I'm scrolling through some of the comments, and then all of a sudden I'm with two people, I presume women, talking about how handsome you are. And I'm like, sitting there like, what the hell am I reading? It's like law simps going on in the Twitters. It was very funny. I liked it. Gummy says, a cowboy. So I fired again and I missed. I fired again and I missed both times. This went on for several hours until I ran out of bullets. Then I got sad, ate a box of popsicles, fell asleep, and I had a dream I hit something I missed. I don't get that.
I don't either. That's it's like a poem or something.
Yeah. Comrade Roof Cree in the base says, Nick, why did you feed Baskin's husband to the tigers? Hey, did you did you follow the Tiger King case at all?
Not recently, but yeah, I mean, he's in prison, right?
He is in prison. I was hoping somebody could explain what happened to me. Cause there was a whole bunch that came out around the murder for hire thing. Like everybody basically said, we didn't do it. This Fed set it up all of a sudden. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like, if this is true, this is huge. And then I didn't hear anything about it after that. And so I was wondering if anybody was actually following up on it. Andrew War Snowboard says, my dad was watching Bloomberg and I confusedly asked my dad what he was watching. His response was the same thing as you, the news. Just Cause says, join us on Locals watching The Watchers.
That's our Locals. Yeah.
Watchingthewatchers.locals.com.
That's us. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, Just Cause.
It's 11:30. I know that you had to go at some point, so I wanted to let you know that whenever you have to go is fine. I'm going to be reading through super chats, so I fully appreciate your time. If you want to stay, you're certainly welcome to, but also know the realities of waking up early.
Yeah, no problem. I got some more time for some super chats if you're good with that.
Yeah, 100%. You can stay all night if you want. I mean, I'm not going to kick you off. Boys Mommy Tube says, nice to see you here, Robert, LA medic. Savoy 6 says, Nick, you're alive. Thought maybe you died after Friday's stream. I got that AB positive liver if you ever need it. Maybe go back to every other day of drinking. Yeah, this trial, normally it's like I take 1 to 2 shots at night, but with this trial and the increased audience, it's been, whew. Kyle Miller
you
says,
deserve it.
Well, I think you just said I deserve a death sentence. Kyle Miller says, have you seen the video of someone claiming that someone is taking pictures of jurors? Sounds like they want to force a guilty verdict. Yes, we just spoke about that. Just Cause says, join us on Locals for a good community. Watching the Watchers. Shout out to my homies. And guys, make sure you do that. Oh, I got to say this again. I said it at the beginning of the show. You got to check the description. Click on Robert's name in the description. It will drag you over to his YouTube channel, and you got to hit subscribe. Check him out. He's got great content every day, right? You do a show every single day.
Every weekday.
Or every weekday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
like right in the middle of the day too.
It's at 4 p.m. Arizona time. So yeah, sort of like an evening, drive home show. One of those.
Well, that's the middle of my day because I wake up at 1.
Yeah, man. I don't know how you do it. Your schedule. It's pretty amazing.
It's a disaster. That's how I do it.
Okay. Well,
it's like falling down the stairs. Like, how'd you do that? I don't know. It just happened.
Well, that's impressive.
Jesse Bear says Barnes thinks the prosecutor knows he can't get murder, so he's purposely focusing on reckless endangerment because it precludes self-defense. I mean, it precludes an automatic victory on self-defense. Kind of. It's not a perfected self-defense, but the jury is instructed to consider self-defense. But yeah, I mean, again, Barnes is a sharp guy, and I think his assessment may be right, but I'm just proposing that it's not all. I don't know that that's a perfect strategy, but I was really impressed with Binger's opening statement. I haven't been much impressed since though. And the real turning point was the moment the defense offered their first objection. Once they objected, you start to see these guys like they started breaking down. Yeah. And so I'm hoping the defense has noticed that. And maybe they won't object a lot during Gage, but you almost kind of wonder if they will, just because it's been so crippling for the prosecution to have to deal with it.
It has, man. And did you watch them sort of scramble around those hearsay rules when they were trying to talk about? I'm not sure that any one of them knew at all what was going on with that conversation.
No, I agree. I think the judge is the only person in there who knows what hearsay is, and he was waiting for an argument and then was just like, because the judge, what's really been hilarious is when the prosecution objects and the judge doesn't even ask for the defense's, reason. And he just like, no, that's not that. What are you talking about? Overruled. And I'm like, oh my God, it's gotta suck.
I know. They're having a bad day, bad time.
Ben Dover says, why does Gruler look nervous? Ooh, good question. Good question.
Because I'm on your show, Nick. You're big time, man.
What do you have to be nervous about, Mr. Gruler? I mean, if you got
probably
the
balls or no balls questions. Yeah, probably those types of questions. You never know what you're going to get.
If you got nothing to hide, you'd submit all your answers directly to the government. Come on.
That's true. Good point.
Johnny Stoffel says militia.mp4. PG says, any comment on the video that's being floated around about the jurors? We talked about it a little bit ago. Ethan says, can defense show that Gage's stream with Kyle, I'm going to the police on cross? If not, is that what they want? Kyle's testimony so they can show? That's what it was. That's the hearsay thing that you're talking about. They tried to get to the fact that in Gage Grosskreuz's video, which I think they showed during their opening, Gage confronts Kyle with his cell phone right after he shot Rosenbaum. And he says, what's going on? He's like, I got to get to the police, right? I got to get to the police. And when they tried to bring that up on Friday or Thursday, it was either Thursday or Friday, they tried to bring that up. That was the hearsay objection. And they're like, nope, you can't object to that. Which is a weird, or you can't admit that because it's hearsay. And they're like, he's a party. And they're like, but it's not adverse or whatever. And then they were arguing the rule of completeness because what it seems what the prosecution wants to do is introduce a portion of Gage's video where he talks to Kyle, but not the portion of the video where Kyle says, I'm going to the police.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on how that would play out?
Well, there was so I don't know that specific back and forth, but I remember the one where I think it was the aunt where they were trying to get in. I can't remember where it was, but there was some hearsay conversation and they were trying, I think it might've been the militia.mp4 where they were trying to get all of this admitted in. And they were talking about it not being hearsay because it was a present sense impression, I think it was, or an excited utterance, but it wasn't Kyle Rittenhouse actually saying it. It was the
Yellow
person
Pants guy. Yeah, it was
on the video.
or no, it was the videographer on the video.
Yeah.
And they're like, this is his present sense impression. That was weird because it's like, but he's not the witness.
Well, right. And then he said, well, it goes to Rittenhouse's state of mind. And he goes, but he didn't say anything, so
he's not even, not only did he not say anything, he's not on the video during that period of time. I'm like, well, he was on the video earlier,
yeah,
but he's not in frame now. He's not like when he pans over, it's like, he's not there. I'm like, how the hell, how does it go to his state of mind? We don't even know if he's there for this conversation. That was a weird, again, that whole video, that one was one that they really should have done some pre-work on and challenged. Cause there's it's just a wasteful video for one. And I do think it is prejudicial having this guy look at a bunch of guys wearing plate carriers and AR-15s and then calling them the militia. Oh, we're here with the militia, blah, 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 blah. And them not being like, hey, we're not a militia, because they probably didn't even hear it or don't care.
Right.
But I just think that was prejudicial. I didn't find it probative at all. And then, yeah, we have hearsay because why isn't this witness here to testify?
Right.
About his present sense impression. Like you're saying it's a present sense impression, but can we cross him? That was weird.
It felt like just one of those things that he didn't know what to say. So he just said present sense impression out there. He just kind of threw it out there.
Yeah. That was, I don't know. Okay. Daniel Demo says, if Kyle wins, could there be retrials of others in his situation, like the 3 R9K guys that shot BLM chasing them in Minneapolis at Justice for Jamar in 2015? A Wisconsin state case is not going to have any precedental or impact, precedental effect or impact on cases in any other state. And this is a district court level case. So no. Also, even if it were to like somehow go to the Wisconsin Supreme Court and there was some similar case, things don't automatically translate backwards like that. There's a lot of work that would have to go into it. Kay Scott says, could the car source guys have pleaded the 5th? Would that be legal? They could have. They could have pleaded the 5th in this one. So some people have been asking, and maybe you have a different answer than I do on this. With Gage Grosskreutz, and I know I'm saying his name wrong, guys. One of the least concerns on my mind is how to say his last name and if he's offended by it. If he gets up on the stand, can he plead the 5th? And if he gets up on the stand, answers a bunch of questions, does he lose his ability to plead the 5th? I think those are the two sort of relevant pieces of that, a stitched together version of a lot of the questions I've gotten.
Yeah, that's a interesting question. I mean, he'd plead the 5th because he doesn't want to be charged. Like if Rittenhouse is not convicted, maybe they charge him with assault. Or
yeah, I mean, I guess that's the theory. Now, some people may be operating under he's a felon carrying illegally, which I don't. Again, I haven't seen anything to fully back that up at this point, so I'm not operating under that theory. But yeah, I mean, there is the reality that he was pulling a gun on, he appears to have been pulling a gun on Kyle Rittenhouse at the time, which could be an assault with a deadly weapon for sure. So I guess that is the idea, but I don't know why he would plead the 5th personally, because I'm pretty sure he's not getting charged.
Yeah, that was my thought on it. Why would he do that? And I've gotten that question before. If Rittenhouse is exonerated, are they going to turn around and charge anybody else? And I don't think so. What I've always sort of explained, how this works is it's prosecutorial discretion. They're going to be able to make a decision about who the victim is based on their analysis, interpretation of the facts. And so it'd be very difficult for them to suddenly, make a case that Gage Grosskreutz was this victim, this hero, somebody who was, trying to stop an active shooter, and then go, oh, well, we were wrong about that. Now we're going to turn around and charge you with a crime for assault and those things. It's just, as a matter of practicality, it just doesn't often happen.
Now here's where maybe they're coming from. I just remembered this, and I meant to ask you about it earlier, but there is a post-incident interview with Gage Grosskreutz where he indicates, and I don't remember the exact quote, that he wished he would have unloaded his full magazine into Kyle Rittenhouse.
Oh yeah.
Now that one, is that even admissible? Because it's a post-incident interview and doesn't speak necessarily to his present state of mind at the time of the incident. So I think you've got an admissibility issue with that. Although he's a complaining witness, so it is an adverse party statement.
Yeah.
So I'm not positive on that one.
Yeah, and you might just say, you know, the judge might let that in. You know, if he testifies and he starts going off about his state of mind, you know, about what was happening right there.
I mean, you got to be able to impeach his state of mind with that.
Well, right, and you have sort of a rule of completeness and all this stuff. I mean, he talked about what his state of mind was on an interview, you know, after the fact, and so, you know, this judge I think might let something like that in.
Okay, so Kidda says, wasn't that his friend saying what Gage said, not a direct quote? And I don't remember, but if that's true, that is hearsay. However, adverse party statements are an exception to hearsay. So I think then they get to ask him about it. Didn't you say this to your friend, to this person? Oh, you didn't? Well, I mean, that's what's going on. But I mean, maybe him saying that is a hearsay objection. Hearsay gets really muddy when you have statements from another person that was quoting another person too. So I don't know. I think that could be a big argument tomorrow. And I think they'd dismiss the jury for that argument.
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean,
yeah,
because otherwise they're going to hear it. They're going to hear what the evidence is.
Yeah. You almost wonder if the prosecution probably should have moved to have that removed in limine, but we'll see. Randy Chase says, once Kyle is acquitted, something must be done to counter the Soros district attorneys. This case should never have been. Look at all the dismissed rioter charges. While I agree, again, that the thin justification that they need is just that they have bodies in the street. I mean, that gives them all of the cushion they need. Boys Mommy Tube says, in the jury selection, the prosecution asked multiple possible jurors if they had knowledge of gunshots and stippling. Any reason you can think of? Well, Huber was shot like basically point blank. Gage was shot at a very close distance, and Rosenbaum was shot at a pretty close distance and also had his shirt off. So I think that's what they're heading off there. They're just asking about it. But weird, because I don't think at any point they've had to prove that Kyle shot these guys. I think the defense actually has basically conceded that, Kyle did these shootings. Obviously, they're on video. So,
but it's been interesting that they're still sort of introducing evidence about that. You know, like they're talking about shell casings. They talked about the testing of the gun and the bullets and all this stuff. And it's like, we know what happened. Nobody's arguing that.
Yeah, that one's weird. I almost wonder if it's just habit of how they prosecute murders. Like it's in the book. We got to follow the book. Or if they're just trying to avoid some defense chicanery that says, well, they never prove our client actually did it.
Yeah.
We've been talking about self-defense this whole time. But,
like my identification thing. But, you know, again, like they might have stipulated to that at the outset of the trial. We don't need to hear a coroner, cause of death, or any of those things. There's a homicide, there's a body, there's a weapon, and so on.
Jenny B says, can you make a bet on how long the jury will be out? No.
So we were talking about an over under on hours, and somebody in our community said 3 hours. And so we were trying to say over, you know, over unders.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you either say it's going to be longer than 3 hours or shorter than 3 hours.
Yeah. And I was thinking, well, maybe 6. So because 6 would be like enough to be under a day. If it hits 6, then it might be going another day. Right. And that's where, you know, maybe they're looking at the video and they're thinking about it. And so we were talking, you know, it might be somewhere in there. It might be longer than that. I think if it goes longer than 6 hours, they're looking at video, and that's not a good thing. So.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, juries are such a mixed bag. Like you can't know. And we don't know. I mean, we know that it's 11 men and 9 women. We actually don't know what the final jury composition will be because they have this. Well, no, we're now. It was
Two are
11
gone.
men. Yeah, it was 11 men, 9 women. And I think one of the dismissed was a pregnant woman. And I think the other dismissed was a man.
Bad joker.
I think. Yeah.
A joke.
What'd you think about that joke? What side do you think that guy was on?
I think he was on Team Kyle, if I had to guess.
So? See, I read the joke the other way. I read the joke as anti-cop.
Did you?
Yeah, because the joke was, why did the cop shoot Jacob Blake 7 times? It was because he ran out of bullets, is the punchline. So then I think about that and I'm like, so the implication is that the cop would have shot Jacob Blake more if he had more bullets because cops shoot black people. But then you could take it the other way too and say that, because he should have shot him more, he only got 7 bullets in. So I don't know, but I read it as the other way. So, but
yeah, I read it the other way. I read it as, Jacob Blake is a criminal and he was, going to go do something bad and a cop shot him to stop him from doing something bad. And they would have shot him more to stop him harder. And, that was what prompted all of the unrest, as you know, in Kenosha. And so that would be, sort of favorable, I think, to Kyle, because Kyle would be somebody who's stopping, some of the protests. So that's kind of how I connected it, but you could be right.
Yeah. I'm just giving my reaction to it.
Yeah, totally.
Not criticizing him. I think that guy had to go though. Like you can't make a statement like that. That guy had to go. No matter what team he's on, he's got to go.
Yes. Yeah. You have to go. Just like if you are going on podcasts and talking about civil rights movements and George Floyd and those things, you probably also shouldn't be on a jury. Just say it. It's a pretty standard thing.
Yeah. It's like, it's almost weird. It's almost like the state really doesn't want Chauvin to have representation on his appeal because that might be a really big issue.
Could be a big problem. Yeah. That Brandon Mitchell, a juror on Chauvin's jury, was going to George Floyd protests before he sat on the jury and didn't say anything about it on his questionnaire. Yeah,
that one, man. Have you followed the Chauvin requests for informal pauperis and basically a public defender for the appeal, and both of them just completely denied?
Yeah, man. And his police union also said, we're done, right? We're not footing the bill anymore on these appeals. So as soon, Chauvin he became the scapegoat for all of America's, racial ills that summer. And it all just got kind of dumped on him. And as soon as his usefulness was up, even his own police union was like, you're on your own. Good luck. Bye. It's kind of sad deal.
That was, man, when I saw the denial of the IFP and the denial of the public defender, I'm like, damn. Because no NGO sort of innocence project or whatever, they're not touching Chauvin's case.
Nope.
We got tons of people with these cases have been on for years. We're not going to mess with that one. Nothing like that's going to happen. So that to me, maybe he'll write his own appeal and it'll be brilliant, but I would hit that juror so hard in that appeal.
Yeah.
Death Wish says, F word. Yes. I've been waiting so long for you to get Gruler back on. F word in Google. Phoenix Lord Azerman says, why would you draw a gun on Kyle after he explicitly told you he was going to the police is a question I hope he gets asked. It'd be interesting. I'd be interested in his response. I don't know if I'd ask that. That's a little open. You don't want to ask why on cross. You want to say you knew Kyle was going to the police because he told you he was going to the police. In fact, you recorded it, didn't you? Like that's how you get that video in. You recorded him saying he was going to the police. Oh, I don't remember. Well, let me refresh your recollection. Here's your video. So you do that, but then you say, and then you shot him. You watched him get hit by Anthony Huber with the skateboard. Mm-hmm. You watched that. You watched him get kicked in the face while he was down, and yet you still ran up on him and tried to shoot him, right? Like that's that line of questioning. Make him say no to any of that stuff that they've all seen on video. Andrew Archibald, thanks for the donation. Lil Meme says good whiskey recommendation around $100. I know what I've got. What do you got? Any ideas?
I don't drink anymore. I cut that out.
Oh, we talked
some
about
time
that
ago.
last time.
Yeah,
Yep.
we did.
Okay.
So I don't I don't have any good recommendations, but I'm sure you do.
I have a great one, right? It's in my town, it's 105. So this is right there. Angel's Envy, finished rye. Get the Caribbean cask, finished rye. It's phenomenal. Not applicable says, if the girlfriend just lied, would she get charged for it? She could. She could. Usually you don't see perjury charges for lying on the stand. Most perjury charges that I've seen come from lying to police or lying to the feds. I mean, that's where those charges really come in a lot of times. But they can in court, but it's almost like they realize that people are going to frame things in their own interest. And so Patrick Stewart says, I cannot wait to see how Gage tries to justify fake surrendering and then drawing a weapon only to find out that Kenosha Kid was faster. Twisted Ninja says, is the jury even going to want to hear Grosskreutz for 7 hours? No. I'd be upset to hear him be a jerk and play a victim when the video is clear. They may not have that impression of him, but I don't want to hear anybody talk for 7 hours except me tomorrow. Ramon says, first time super chat. Finally. Hey, thank you. Been a fan for over 2 years. Was even on your call-in show back in 2019. Big love from Colorado. P.S. Check out my YouTube channel, this one, and listen to my music. Guys, check out Ramon in the chat. Deathwish says, Recato Law, fair enough. I was lit and got a misdemeanor, reckless driving, alcohol-related charge when I was younger. Okay. I don't remember what that's in response to. Fatix the Great says, I'll take $10 worth of fat shame, please. I'm over 400 pounds and trying my best to stave off death. My avatar is very sadly very accurate to reality. Look, if you're a giant fatso and you're about to die, the one thing you need to do is get your ass up and run away from death as fast and as often as you can until you can run farther and farther. Stop being fatsos. I don't want you to die. I want you to live. Plus, if you're big and you catch COVID, you're going to die even harder. And you don't want to die twice. You don't want to do that.
No.
Eddie Oliver says, I was shot in the leg and did not realize it until a couple of seconds later when the blood started spraying out. Damn. So there you go. Maybe I'm wrong. Someone will have to shoot me in the leg so I can find out. JR says, have any of you watched the George Zimmerman trial? I think the defense attorney, Mark O'Mara, was brilliant. I did not watch that trial.
I did not know. That was before I was doing deep dives on really any of that stuff.
Yeah. I was looking at that case going, yeah, I mean, I see the self-defense claim here. I see a lot. I see a guy who's probably an ass, but I also see a self-defense claim. Being an asshole does not eliminate your self-defense claim. Low pro. Nope. Red. He says, got shot in the leg and it took a couple of seconds / minutes to realize it. Felt like a bee sting at first. It was the firefight I was in that gave it away. So there you go.
Wow.
So, yeah. Ghost of Recon says, Baghdad 2003. You'd be surprised. It really is situational. Adrenaline can cover quite a bit. See, I knew there were some people in the chat.
Yeah. It's like Forrest Gump, right? When Forrest Gump, something bit him.
Yeah,
remember?
That's right.
That's all it was. Yeah.
I think it'd be different if you're just standing there and someone's like, all right, man, I'm going to shoot you in the leg now. And you're like, yeah, do it. I'm going to see if this hurts. That I think is going to hurt really bad.
Yeah. That sounds terrible.
Tamara Holloway says, McGinnis put himself in danger running towards the gun situation because he thought something newsworthy might happen. Yeah. And that could be part of the reckless endangerment argument. Can Kyle be held responsible for this guy being downrange? And the main reckless endangerment argument is that Kyle fired 4 shots and all 4 of them went into the target that he fired at. Like one of them twice. He was 120% accurate. I mean, these are stats that you could not pay for in Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Kay Scott says, ask Robert if he thinks the defense can bring into testimony the TV news show where Grosskreutz said he wished he had unloaded his gun on Kyle. We kind of covered that a little bit ago. Ghost of Recon says, if I had a son, he'd look like Joseph Rosenbaum. Joe Biden, probably. Hunter Biden's like, hey, wait a minute. Fiery Red Podcast says, did you see the article from Crime Watch about Kim Potter Judge being harassed at her secured apartment in Minnesota? I did not see that, but I did see that people are pissed because the Kim Potter trial is going to have no cameras in it, which means
no cameras.
Pissed. Yeah.
Really? Yeah, that is terrible. Didn't they charge her with intentional murder too?
Yeah,
Did they add that one?
I think they upped the charges on
Yeah.
that one. I mean, that's a terrible shooting, or it's a terrible mistake. But the weird thing is, I think she's got under the law justified shoot if she hadn't made the mistake. Like if she had not drawn the taser and instead drawn the gun on a
Yeah.
fleeing felony suspect who's getting into a car, I mean, I think she's justified in pulling the trigger under the law.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want anybody getting shot by cops, generally speaking, but that one, I'm like, this situation sucks, but
Yeah. That's an interesting case because of that. You know, you can clearly hear her say it was a mistake. Oh, I shot him, you know, like, damn it, you know. And
yeah,
that being said, you know, the argument is that this kid was in a car speeding down a freeway, could have killed somebody else, and you know, she had the right to use lethal force to stop that from happening.
yeah, and I mean, they were making a felony warrant arrest.
Right.
They pulled him over for something else, but when they run his license, like felony warrant on the guy, and that's when he makes the flee. And I think I haven't read
Yeah.
up on justified peace officer shootings in Minnesota, but I think one of the justifications is fleeing felony suspect. If they believe it's going to put someone in danger. So, but no, I haven't seen that. Oh, real quick, what did you think about the second witness in the case, the FBI agent not being on camera and not being on audio?
I was irritated as hell about that. I
Yeah.
thought that the trial was over that day, and this guy comes in with some pretty damn important evidence, which is the drone footage, which is like, you know, that was news to me, and we didn't get to hear any of that. And you know, it's pretty consequential because the government, the prosecutors were almost relying their entire case on it, saying that Rittenhouse was chasing Rosenbaum, and you saw sort of two different stories put forth by both sides off the same evidence. And the fact that we didn't get to hear about that guy, I thought was a bummer.
Yeah, I read about what he said, but of course it's a journalist's like taking notes because they can't record. And I was really frustrated that we didn't get to hear that out. And from what I read, it sounds like that's still pending. But we've seen the FBI footage now several times, so they admitted the footage. But I don't know, maybe that's going to be in their motion to dismiss. Maybe they'll make the motion if they make a motion to dismiss, they'll make one for sort of the idea of insufficient evidence, but they'll also cite state misconduct and say, hey, they did not disclose this critical piece of evidence that we know existed at one point, and they're just going to blame the feds for doing it. But if they had notified us at the time, we could have gotten the footage from the feds, but they chose not to.
I just can't imagine that wasn't disclosed. I mean,
I think when they argued about this a while back, when the FLIR footage first came up, and this was about a month before trial, I was watching it, and they said they didn't disclose this, Your Honor, because they said we've got thermal imaging from an FBI plane that was in the area, and they're like, Your Honor, we've never heard of this, and they said something like in an email somewhere there was a link to it. And it's like,
yeah. That's so I didn't know that.
That's not production. Like production, when I get videos and photos, it annoys the shit out of me because they give me a CD. I have to go, and my computer doesn't have a CD reader anymore. And like, I have an external one that I have to plug in, and it's a pain. And well, we gave them an internet link in an email. I'm like,
so they still send us bills for CDs. So in Arizona, we have to bring down our own CDs to exchange with them. So if they want to give us Discovery, they say, oh, we got 5 CDs of Discovery. So you got to bring down your CD. So you still have to go get CDRs, wherever the hell those are, you know, and you got to bring those down now, and you got to exchange them. And if you don't exchange them, then they just add it to your tab. And so you get a bill now for like $1 a CDR, I think, if you don't have any to exchange with them. It's like, what year is this? What day is it?
One of my cases, the state, the county, but yeah, this, you know, the state court, but the county sent me a bill. They produced a CD of an audio recording that I didn't request or anything. It was required production. They produced it, and then they sent me a bill for $20. And I called the clerk and I said, try and get it. Like, I'm not paying you shit. This is required production. What are you
Hilarious.
talking
I know. Dude, we have gotten in so many fights over Discovery, so many fights. Like there's one city here that wanted to bill us $5 for every Discovery, and we started fighting them on it. You know, it's like, it's our evidence, you jerks. Like, stop, billing us for all this stuff. And anyways,
you have an obligation to produce this as a constitutional right to my client.
Yes.
You're gonna bill me for it?
No, they wanted $60 every body cam. So there was one city here, they wanted $60 for every body cam, and we had these jerk police officers who would turn on and off their body cameras every couple minutes. So they'd play it, 5 minutes, turn it off. For a minute, turn it back on. Every one of those is a separate video with a separate video processing file. So our freaking Discovery bills are $900 for one case, and so it just shows you sort of how the system is so convoluted in many ways. There are people who are, defendants going through that system that have to deal with all of that. And it drives me nuts, which is of course why we do what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. That it's like, have you heard of a thumb drive?
Yeah.
They're free. If you go to like a trade show, they'll just give you a bunch of thumb drives or whatever.
Right.
They all say Lexar on them.
Right.
Eddie Oliver says, if I drop the knife between the two of you, who wins the fight, Nick or Rob?
You look scrappy there.
I'll concede it to you. I'll concede the fight. Well, I mean, that's just me setting you up to win, for me to win. Like,
yes.
You're like, oh,
false sense of security. Yeah.
This is going to be fine. I'll pick up the knife. He already said he's going to give up. And all of a sudden, shanked. Not applicable says, you walked out after 10 p.m. Just lay down and die. That's the curfew thing. I was trying. See, that's what I think when you're talking to someone about the Kyle Rittenhouse case, and not someone on Twitter or something like that. It's not going to work there, but just in your own life. And they're like, well, he shouldn't have done this. He shouldn't have done this. He shouldn't have done this. And you go, all right, okay, that's fine. So he should just die then.
Right. And
if they're willing to say yes, well, I mean, maybe they're hard line on it, but at least make them ponder that is that for a real self-defense claim, the alternative is you die.
Right.
So, well, he was out past curfew, so he should die then. Well, no, I don't think that. Then that's what you think.
No, it sounds good, right? It sounds really well. He's 17, shouldn't have been out there with an assault rifle out there in Kenosha. Okay, that sounds good, but he was, and he got attacked. So what should he have done then? I guess just gotten molested by Rosenbaum, or had his head cracked open by Huber. Like what?
Yeah, or according to Mark Richards, had his head removed from his shoulders by the skateboard of Hubert. Right. But no, that's and I agree. I don't think at 17 he should have been out there I don't think he should have been out there at all. I wouldn't be. And if my 17-year-old, I don't have one yet, but if my 17-year-old wanted to go, I'd say hell no. No, you can't go out there. I don't want you to get shot or stabbed. So no, thank you. But he was, like you said, he was. Kinda X122 says, so when can I buy my legal tidy whiteys? I'm genuinely looking at making legal briefs. So
that's great. You should do it. Totally. I'll support you, man. I love it. I love that. That's so brilliant. I love that.
Philippe Brevard says, curfew lol. How many rioters did the police detain and ticket that night? Not many.
Not many. Not Corey Washington.
Legatus Rex says, Gross Cripps cross-exam will likely be the final nail in the prosecutor's case. If Agent 47 gets his teeth in him, hope for the best. Peace. Yes, on my stream, Sharfisi is being referred to as Agent 47 from Hitman.
Okay.
From the Hitman
games. I was calling him the guy, Congressman Peter Russo from Game of Thrones. No, House of Cards. Do you ever watch that?
I haven't watched that. No.
It's good. It's pretty good. There's a congressman who looks exactly like Corey Chirafisi.
Is he played by Stanley Tucci?
You probably know. No, I don't know who that is, but you know the actor, Peter. I'm sorry, the actor. This guy, whoever this actor is, he's in a lot of stuff.
I've seen this guy.
Yeah, whatever he is, he kind of looks like Corey.
Vienticus Prime says, I see Robert's not a night person.
No.
David Moffat says the governor, the DA, and the investigator are all related. Sounds biased from the get-go. I've heard that. I mean, of course, I don't have an easy way to verify it, but I have seen that in several places. And there could be there could be some issues there. They're all Democrats and they're all related in some way. So maybe they have an agenda. That's possible. Him fan 8907 says, my wife and I both tested positive for the coof. She has all the symptoms and I'm asymptomatic. It's kicking her ass. Please pray for us. Mainly her. I will do, brother. I went through it. My wife went through it. It was the worst, 10 days I've been through in a while. And then we got through. It's not the sickest I've ever been, but it was a long and nasty sick. So
Yeah, you were out for a while, right? As a result of that.
Yeah. Well, I had that and then I got a 7-day ban. So that was fun.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about that. I listened to your stream when you were detailing some of that because I've been going through some of that myself,
Yeah. It's always fun.
Yep.
Ryan H says George Floyd's nephew is threatening to dox Kyle's jurors if they don't convict. Ask Short Fat Otaku for the source. Now I've seen the source. We talked about it earlier. Harvey Weinstein says ask Gruler if he can beat up Devin. Think you could take him?
Who's Devin?
Legal.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I think so too.
Yeah. Not even going to hesitate on that one. Yes. Set it up.
I saw a picture of him next to someone I know, and he was markedly shorter than I expected. Because he's on camera, he cleans up really well or whatever, and I expected him to be a tall kind of guy, but he's not. I was actually surprised about that. Gummy says been a member for 8 months. Discord link how? Gummy, if you're a member at the top level, there and you can't find it, which is very possible, send me a DM either on Twitter or an email and let me know, and I'll get you the Discord link. Otherwise, I recommend not being a member and joining my locals instead. That's the better way. It is a better life. Taco Jones says, in Kyle Rittenhouse case, is the prosecution playing dirty or not? I don't think they're playing. I mean, they're playing weaselly.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like you said, I think you've fleshed it out right. Anytime there are dead bodies and there's somebody who got shot, you're going to have to explore these types of charges. But I do think that Binger's a true believer. Some people have been saying that he's maybe throwing this or that.
Yeah.
There's some funny business going on. I don't think so at all, man. I think that they think they've got a good case. I think that this is what they know how to do. This is just a kind of standard prosecution. They don't have good facts and they're trying to make the best of it.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying. I don't see them throwing the case. I see them coming to the reality of the fact pattern that they have. FS says, don't you think it's crazy how Legal Eagle hasn't made a video or commented on the Rittenhouse trial? Certainly, if he cares about educating the populace about the law, he'd make a video about it. I'm sure he'll make a video why Kyle Rittenhouse should have been guilty. At the no, I'm just kidding. I don't know. He does this weird thing where he doesn't want to be political, but then he does be political. In the election, he might have lost some viewership during the election. Who knows? Terry the Tough Cunt says, can I legally ignore my wife? Yes, you can. Eddie, you can tell her a YouTube lawyer told you so. Eddie Oliver says, do you either of you think that this case is anywhere near reminiscent to Bernard Gates in New York City in the 80s? I've heard this case mentioned a couple times, but I have not read it.
I haven't either. I'm not familiar with that one.
Sorry, guys. Patrick Stewart, I'm sorry my guest has no idea what you're talking about. It's really rude. Patrick Stewart says, if Kyle is exonerated, he better get even more than Nick Sandman money for the slander he's experienced from the MSM. As far as we know, Nick Sandman has gotten zero money. So that
is that right?
All of the settlements have been NDA'd other than the fact that they've settled. So we don't know that he's gotten any money.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So it's
because that was a Lynn Wood thing, right?
Yeah. And on the first one, I think it's entirely plausible he got zero money on the first settlement because you want that settlement to put pressure on the others. Well, look, Washington Post or whatever is scared of this. So you give the first person out the really good deal, and then you push for money on the rest of them using the pressure in the media and stuff like that. But I don't actually know. That's just speculation.
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't do that type of stuff, but that makes sense. Just strategically, that's kind of brilliant.
TZ1052 NY says, why did the defense jump on, I think he means didn't the defense jump on the Seroquel testimony? R.E. Rosenbaum, the prime instigator. Doesn't it open the door to his psych history? Hi, Rob Nyrenal MD. Nyrenal MD.
Oh yeah, yeah. NY Renal MD, the doctor
Oh,
from New York. I say, yeah.
Oh, okay. The reason they didn't jump on it is because that lady is not a pharmacist or a pharmacologist or anything like that. She has no. They have not qualified her as a witness. They could ask her what she has heard that he has taken these drugs for, and that's about it. And she kind of equivocated on that one. People in my chat were yelling, "That's an antipsychotic," and that could be true. But if they don't have a pharmacist or pharmacologist or someone who's qualified to talk about what it is, they can't actually ask her about the drug itself. They did ask why he was on the gabapentin. They got that she said he was for his bipolar. And I mean, that's a win for them. I mean, you want Rosenbaum to be bipolar. They can now bring that up in their closing argument, say, this is a guy with bipolar disorder. And we're seeing him all night acting in a manic sort of manner. We're seeing him be the aggressor. We've got testimony from Ryan Balch that says that he's the aggressor every time he encounters him. So they got that.
Yeah, and also I don't know that it's necessary in order to trigger a self-defense. You know, like we talked about previously. You know, Rosenbaum could have wanted to murder Rittenhouse, or he could have been wanting to, you know, shake his hand and thank him for his service, right? But if it looks like he's being assaulted and being attacked, and Rittenhouse reasonably believed that objectively there, he's justified. You know, it doesn't matter if he was on Seroquel or all of those other things.
I can't wait to hear in Binger's closing argument that he was stumble, lunge, falling forward to shake Kyle Rittenhouse's hand.
Yeah. I mean, I was joking about it. Did he trip on his shoelace? Like, what was he doing? Why was he falling forward?
I don't know. He was just falling. I mean, you know, standard issue fall. I mean, how often do you run around and not fall? I mean, that's the real question. Cinema Queen says, Nick, are you going to watch Dexter New Blood? I'm going to try it out, but I just started watching Travelers with the missus. So we got 3 seasons of that to burn through first. First episode dropped tonight on Showtime. I'm watching it tonight. I'm weird and love all 8 seasons. You are weird for loving the 8th season. I just got to say.
Yeah.
Darren Orange says, can you guys talk about the questions the jurors might have after seeing the videos? Cheers. Same questions you guys have after seeing the videos. I mean, jurors are they're just people, like, at the end of the day. If you're watching the case and you're seeing what the juror sees, just think, what do I think about this? And you've likely put yourself in the shoes of at least one of the jurors. Charles Iron says, Jaffa calling Zimmerman was a wild ride. Not applicable says, glad Obama's body couldn't produce sons. What? Riff Raff Game says, thoughts about the Julius Jones clemency hearing. I haven't been following it. Someone was talking to me about it the other day. Have you been following that at all?
No, I haven't. I've been all Rittenhouse, man, just like you.
Yeah. Eddie Oliver says, Bernard Goetz was the case where the guy claimed to be attacked by 4 black guys on the subway in New York, and he shot them and killed them and walked free, self-defense. Don't they teach you that in law school? No. They don't teach New York state cases in law school in Minnesota. They teach federal cases. And maybe a Minnesota case here and there. And yeah, I haven't followed Julius Jones at all. Rob Price says, was shot years ago. Thankfully was wearing a vest. Didn't hurt right away. Took a good 30 seconds. Was doing security at a Connex yard in the winter, and they were tired of homeless burning the wood floors. Damn. Nick's Hex says, who has better hair, Rob or Devin? Rob, clearly. Process Black says, Legal Eagle looks like Wreck-It Ralph went to law school. Discuss. Ace Breen says, if you want to sell legal briefs, might as well sell a Ricada bra. I already sell Ricada Law yoga pants for the ladies. I do. It says law splaining the interwebs on them. They're great. Zen Cicada says, several references made to Little Binger. No one has called the other Lard Varys yet. Lard Varys.
Oh, man. Oh, no.
Okay, we got just like 4 more. Comrade Roof Korean, the base says, Bernard Goetz case is similar to the Joker train scene. That's what I was thinking when reading it, actually. Tago Jones says, do they still have the time experts to bring up? Yes, that'll be during the defense's case in chief after the prosecution is done. John Black. Zala says, I read a funny NPR article saying the prosecutor has an uphill battle because of lack of video evidence.
There's like 21 exhibits or however many there were.
There's like an hour of video that we've
Yeah, we
watched
spent
already.
almost a full day on that.
President-elect Austin M says 2 pharmacists and 2 EMTs on the jury. They know the meds. I mean, if that's true and they actually make it into the real jury pool, that could be a big problem for the state.
Yeah.
If they know those meds, because they'll be thinking, oh, this guy's bipolar, he's psychotic. And they might tell the rest of the jury, well, that's what that does. They're not supposed to, but they may. And in
Do you have
deliberations, they may.
demographics? Do you have demographics on the jury?
There must be a report out on it somewhere.
Yeah.
The only thing I've heard was the 11 men or women, 9 men, but I haven't heard anything since.
Yeah.
Adam Price says, I'm looking forward to this week's episode of 2.5 Men, where Gage and his friends effed around and Kyle helped them find out. David Moffat says, I live in New York and they don't teach our lawyers New York case law either. And to be clear, they teach in Minnesota, they don't teach Minnesota cases except for specific areas of Minnesota law. I mean, they teach federal cases because that's what the bar's on.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here. And a lot of it is not really even like teaching. It's sort of like making you
read,
squirrel your way through a bunch of convoluted stuff. And then you actually get out into the real world and it's kind of a different game.
Yeah. Okay, I lied. There's 4 more. Rabbi says, is the reason why the defense doesn't object often for the sake of Kyle's image? They don't want to make it look like Kyle only won because of shady lawyer stuff, but because there's no way you frame the facts in a way that makes Kyle guilty. Maybe I would suggest that should not be their primary concern. Keeping him out of prison for the rest of his life is.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. There's also, this question came up a lot when I was covering it, but a lot of these witnesses are very good witnesses for the defense. And so you don't really want to object and stop good testimony from coming in. If you were on the defense, you might even think about calling these people on your own and asking them those same questions. So if the government's going to, start with that.
Yeah, certainly you're going to call Richie McGinnis. You're going to call Ryan Balch.
Yeah.
Those 2 are for sure. You might call the Marine. His testimony was a little weird for me.
The Lukowski.
Yeah. Lukowski was a little weird. He seemed hesitant to say some stuff, but he also seemed a little miffed at Kyle. And he talked about treating Gage's arm wound, which was like, I can't get a read on where this guy is. So his testimony was weird, but you definitely call Balch and you definitely call McGinnis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jay says, I hope the defense portrays Gage as the vigilante. Even after Kyle said he was handing himself into the police, he armed, pursued, and pulled a gun. Philip Booty says, I thought that the judge said that the jury would have to rely on memory and wouldn't have any transcripts and therefore video to help with deliberation. The judge actually, I think he did say that they weren't going to have the video to review in the jury room.
He said that?
I think that might have happened on Friday.
Really? Okay. So maybe that's the conclusion of that conversation about the militia.
Yeah, it's maybe, okay, so they're only going to get to go off of what they remember seeing in this courtroom and their impressions. They're not going to get to review the full videos. And maybe that's a compromise that they made or something, because that's...
Yeah, maybe. Because he did read all of those into exhibits.
Yeah.
Remember that? I mean, he spent like 5 minutes reading through all of them. And then he said, received. And
yeah, I think he said, I want to introduce these 21 items into evidence.
Yeah.
Altlag says, Nick found an ABC article confirming that a juror is a pharmacist. So there you go. I'll certainly take a look at it. The denialist says, one of my favorite parts was on recross. The defense asked one question and rests. The one about the FBI questions. After on redirect, the prosecutor tried to impeach his own witness.
Yeah, I remember that one. That was when they were fighting over the testing on the bullets. And again, I'm like, why are we even arguing about that? Chiarifisi comes out and says, oh, you tested that the next day, didn't you? And he says, the officer says, yeah, we did, on the 26th instead of the 25th. And then the prosecutor chimes back in and says, yeah, but the defense, they didn't test their own. They didn't do their own independent test, did they? And I'm like, what are we even talking about? We've already agreed the bullets came from Kyle's gun. Like nobody has to contest this.
Actually, that was kind of a weird thing because the bullets, one of the cops mentions, he's like, yeah, we found 3 40 caliber rounds or shells.
Yeah.
It's like, those aren't Kyle's.
Right. Yeah.
So
That was
strange.
that was the other thing too, that I was curious about, whether we were going to see anything like Kyle was shooting something else off somewhere else, maybe at a park somewhere or earlier in the night. And then that sort of reframes the entire context of this shooting. But, none of that was disclosed. We saw no evidence of that. I also thought it was weird. I know we've got, some super chats, but it was also weird. I wanted to see what you thought about this. All of the witnesses that they did call, they sort of impeached them with their prior inconsistent statements, both with McGinnis and I think with Balch.
Yes. The prosecution did, you're saying, right?
Yeah. So they come through, they full testimony. And then at the end, you're kind of a liar and also not credible.
Yeah. That was, I think they knew that for some reason, they knew they had to bring McGinnis and they wanted to bring Balch. And then to me, if I'm the jury, when they come back on redirect and they start impeaching them, I'm like, why are you doing this to your own guy? Like, why are you going after that? Oh, that was my problem with Lukowski. Well, I blacked out for a little bit and I was like, I mean, and I thought the defense could have really gone after him on that, but I think his testimony overall just wasn't harmful enough to really try and go after. So it was weird though. But again, like these witnesses are not great for the state.
No,
at all. So
no.
Yeah. Malik Fox, it says, quoting some people in the chat, Ricada bras for legal support. So much genius coming up, chat. Soon you'll have your own clothing line. Yes, I'm the next Kanye. Baron's guy says, sorry for being tardy and late. Did Robert talk about how the great aunt was related to the prosecutor? Same tsunami and mayo stained underwear.
Yeah, I was wondering if they shopped at the same store. Prosecutor James and Aunt Huber.
Yeah, I think so.
They might.
I think they may. That may be a thing.
Yeah.
Not handsome hentai protagonist Jack says Nick's female leggings lost blaming the inter-ass. Luke Blanche says, I take gabapentin daily for my peripheral neuropathy, also used for restless leg syndrome. It's also used for a mood elevator. Great show. Very helpful. Hey, thank you. Eddie Oliver says, do you internet attorney like you two, Barnes, Viva, and Nate get together and make fun of Legal Eagle? If not, you should. No, I make fun of Legal Eagle because I think he's a dork. I try not to wrap other people up into me dumping on people as much as possible. Unless they want to, then they can, but I don't want to uncomfortably drag people into it. The Real Super Geek says, FYI, gabapentin is a drug used for seizures and nerve pain. It has no indications for use to treat bipolar disorder. Well, then she made a bad mistake, but maybe it was one of his other drugs that, again, the whole thing that comes out is they got the bipolar disorder testimony. And that is, I still think they should have pressed, but I think they must've been just happy with that. Angry Baneling says, Alita said Mandy's name is pronounced Kervicus. Well, Mandy. Boys Mommy Tube says, when they were paneling the jury, they asked profession in open court. Oh, that came later in the hearing. I think after they did the whatchamacallit thing, after they did the private stuff. And so I had actually stopped the stream. I thought they were going to come back the next day, but they finished that night. Charles Iron says, you need to go on Dave Smith's part of the problem. Okay. Nate the lawyer says, the Young Turks admits Kyle has a great self-defense case.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw Nate posted that actually on Twitter, that I think there's a couple of good clips of those going around. I think actually, let me send you one. There's one of Anna Kasparian, who is Nate posted it. This is funny.
Where are you sending it to? The private chat
on
or
Twitter?
Okay.
On Twitter. So yeah, pull that up. I just sent you that one. Nate just posted that one earlier today. State lines. Yeah, I watched this one earlier. It's good.
Here we go. Hold on. Be quiet, Anna Kasparian. Oh, wait, here we go. I can't believe this state lines thing has persisted this long anyway, though.
I know. Well, you know, once you get something to sink your teeth into.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Here we go.
Previously, it was reported that he had obtained the gun in Illinois and then crossed state lines into Wisconsin with that illegal gun. Who crossed state lines? He drove from Illinois to Kenosha, Wisconsin. Now, again, he drove from Illinois to Wisconsin. It's not like he was in his front yard and he was approached by a group of individuals who posed an imminent threat to his life. He drove across state lines in a state that he doesn't even live in, and then he crossed state lines with it. He crossed lines, meaning he traveled across state lines. He traveled there from out of state, who again traveled across state lines. Now it turns out, based on an investigation, that there was an individual who sold the gun to Kyle Rittenhouse in Wisconsin.
It's not even right
so
either.
He did not cross
no, it's not right.
Illegal gun, but he had an illegal gun. For my previous inaccuracies, I apologize to you guys. Obviously, it was not intentional, and I want you guys to know what the details are. It is what it is.
What about your? What about your present inaccuracies?
Oh man.
Okay, so that's an interesting question I have for you real quick on the gun. The testimony from Dominick Black was really interesting, right? Because they're on this straw buyer theory, and Dominick Black's testimony, if taken as true, says, well, I bought it, he paid me, I bought it, but the agreement was that I would have it and he would get it when he turned 18. So suddenly we go from straw buyer to basically an informal trust.
Right. Yeah. And
yeah, go ahead.
Well, and that was one of the things that Binger was doing to sort of hint that there was some illegality, unlawfulness stuff going on without any of those criminal charges. If you thought he trespassed on the property, charge him with criminal trespass. If you thought that there was an illegal sale or some sort of gaining of a firearm illegally, well, that should have been referred over to the other state, or criminal charges should have been brought. But
yeah,
it's not quite there, but it's close enough that they want to like make it gross just by proximity.
Yeah, and that whole this sort of narrative, well, he stole the guns, like, so you didn't charge him with the theft of a firearm?
Right, charge him.
Like you've interviewed Dominick Black. You know this testimony. You probably told him he had to say this to get the deal that you definitely didn't promise his attorney when this case is over. He had to say this to keep himself from getting hammered on the straw buyer. So this testimony is coming. Why haven't you charged him with stealing the gun? That wasn't his, apparently.
Right.
That was weird. Mandy Karvikis says Nick's last name is pronounced Ricketta. Well, Matthew Harder says rackets rack 'em up bras for unscaled comfort. Highway Freak says, is it possible that Binger is feeling forced to try this case and just making a show of it? I think that's unlikely. Just because of he's the ADA, but there are other ADAs who could take the case. If he doesn't want to do this case, hell, he could have handed it off to his co-counsel, and then that guy could have grabbed a different co-counsel than Binger if he didn't want to be lead on this. I think it was offered to him and by the DA, and he said, "Yeah, I'll take it."
Yeah, there's not many. It's a small DA's office. I think there was only I think we counted them like 9 or 12 total district attorneys, which is small. I mean, in Arizona, we've got, our county attorney's office is like 1,000 employees, hundreds
way
of
bigger than mine.
Yeah, hundreds of prosecutors. So, you've got a lot smaller pool of people. You can imagine when the Rittenhouse case comes across their office, everybody knows it's coming in here, and now they're starting to, sort of determine who can handle it. They pick Thomas Binger, who kind of does look like a litigator. He's got this little, faux hawk thing. He's got his nice suits.
His Star Wars Rebel pin.
Yeah, well, does he have? What is that?
He wears a lapel pin every day, and it's been different every day. And on Friday, it was the Rebel Alliance pin from the Star Wars sequel.
Like, for real?
Yeah,
I did not know that. That's
It was
okay. That's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting.
It was weird.
Little quirk there.
Or the resistance pin, which is it's the rebels, but in the sequels. And so is that like a dog whistle to the
I don't
Antifas
know.
out there, resist or
I
something?
don't know.
It's very, very strange. But yeah, so no, I don't think he's, again, I think that he is prosecuting this case just the best that he can. I really do. Ms. Moonbear says, what are your thoughts on the inventory manager not knowing about the inventory loss? That guy was terrified to be on the stand, and everybody could see it, and the jury could see it too.
Yeah.
Brian Coker says, Rob, isn't it past your bedtime? Young Turks, Anna admits it now. They should have watched your breakdown. They would have known months ago. David Moffat says, Kyle drove 11 miles from home to get to Kenosha. I do that trip every day. 200 Watt Studio says, the Young Turks have been reports, shows clips of her. Cal Clay says, you ever thought to remove GBRR Esquire? Let's see. Oh, so RR Esquire instead of Robert Gruler Esquire, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, maybe changing my channel name. Probably. I probably need to do that.
Deathwing Elite Gant says, always great to have Robert on. Nick on Verdict Day organize a legal flashcast stream. Legal Bites Nate, Viva Robert Esquire, but definitely not Tom. No, I've pretty much made it open to attorneys who are available who want to pop in. That if I see them in chat and stuff, I'm sending invites. Happy to have people on the panel, and I'll be doing that next week as well. Well, man, that's all of the super chats from this show. I'm going to continue on and read super chats that I've got from earlier because I have to get all caught up. That is a promise I make to everybody. But I want to thank you for coming on. And again, unless you really want to stay, but these aren't going to be for you at all.
No, it's no worries. No, man, I really appreciate you having me on. It was a lot of fun talking to you. I know that we've got a lot more to talk about, and I'd love to have you on our channel and
absolutely
make sure that we can introduce you to everybody over there. Cause I think we've got a lot of like-minded people, who just want to see things improve to some degree. So I appreciate you having me on, man. And we'll reconnect at a later date, I suppose.
Sounds great, buddy. Thanks a bunch.
Right. Thanks, man. Good luck tomorrow with a full day of Binger.
Oh, it's going to be wonderful.
All right. We'll reconnect and I'll see if I can maybe pop in tomorrow or sometime this week.
Sounds great. I'm just going to start sending you links. And if you have time, pop on in.
Love it. Awesome. Thanks a lot, Nick. Thanks everybody in the chat. Everybody have an awesome evening, and I'll see you all on the next one. Bye, everybody.
All right. Adios.
See ya.
All right, guys. There we go. That was Robert Gruler. Great discussion. I like that guy. He's very smart. Great insight, great streamer and YouTuber. Definitely check out his channel. Again, it's linked in the description. Make sure you click on it. If you've not watched his content, it's good stuff. Let's see. Philip Booty says follow up for Rob on Streamlabs, but I did not get to it before he left. My apologies. You guys are on a delay there, but he says, how does no transcript for / video for jury change deliberation length, i.e. if it's a day for deliberation versus 3 hours, is longer, better, or worse for Kyle? I think, I don't know if I can say longer is better or worse in general, but if there's no video or transcript for them to review, it would probably be shorter. But really the thing you're looking at is what kind of personalities are in that deliberation room and what arguments are they making? How strong are those personalities? Because if there's a strong personality resisting the crowd, they're going to be trying to persuade them. And if they don't go along with it, then they're going to end up with a hung jury. So that's how that goes. All right. Now I am reading chats from earlier today. Earlier today, I had the super chat catch up stream, and then people sent some more stuff in. So I'm trying to, and I ran out of time because I had to go to dinner, but I am here for the duration now, even though that means it's going to be a late night for me before an early morning tomorrow. But I got some good rest over the weekend, and I am pumped, ready for Gage's testimony. But if you want to hang around for these chats, you are welcome to do so. And we'll be just going through them. OJ says, hey man, appreciate what you do. You may have gone over it, before, but just wondering what you think the witness statements from Richard McGinnis. Richard McGinnis was a fantastic witness for Kyle, almost 100%. Almost 100%. He had a couple statements that were mildly damaging. He thinks guns escalate the situation in general. And he also said the menacing line, although he tried to clarify that was for the situation, not for the particular people. And he also said that he probably was in danger when Kyle Rittenhouse fired at Joseph Rosenbaum, which goes to the reckless endangerment. Not entirely, but his perception was that he was in danger. And those statements were a little bit damaging. That's why it wasn't 100%. But in general, especially on the major charges, good stuff for Kyle Rittenhouse. Toxic says, is law school worth the debt? Depends what you want to do. If you want to be a lawyer, yeah, law school is worth the debt. If you want to make money, no. There are other ways to make plenty of money without going to law school and without getting as much debt. So but if you want to be a lawyer, yeah, it's worth the debt because that's basically what you have to do. Batman's Pet Goldfish says the judge is better than both prosecution and defense. C. Warren says, did the autopsy show that, or do we know yet? Autopsy show what? Oh, the shot in the back being the killing thing. I don't know. They haven't really introduced that. So that's a little weird. They may have stipulated to it, but I don't know. Because they may not have wanted a coroner coming in and mucking up the testimony. Andrew Passman says, when Kyle is found not guilty, they will riot and burn. Another defensive shooting will probably happen. Do you think they will use the same prosecutor? It's certainly possible. Rick Nikita says, only the doctor can pilot the TARDIS. Drunk Surfer 95 says, Floyd family trying to dox jurors. Memes Redacted says the prosecution's witnesses did more work proving self-defense than the defense. He was lunging at the gun. Falling? Lunging. Yeah, and the defense hasn't had a chance to do their case in chief, right? This is the prosecution's case right now, and that's why the prosecution is trying to acquire W's, because once the defense goes, it'll be their framing of the case, and that will be how everything goes after that. So Ratch Just Be You says he caused the murder because there was a curfew and he wasn't supposed to be there, not to mention the gun. So this person was from earlier today. I don't know if they're here right now, but yeah, that is not how you cause the murder. Unless you're talking about Grosskreutz. No, I'm just kidding. Or Zeminski, who might have actually caused all of this to happen because Zeminski fired first. Some guy with cancer says, what about the fact that the prosecutor's office stopped the warrant from being served on Gage Grosskreuz's phone? I think it's shifty, but they're not required to actually affect the warrant. They don't have to do it, but I do think it's pretty sus. Britt Cormeyer says, I hope you have a ton of adult beverages for next week's streams. I feel you're going to need it. No, I actually have to cut down the adult beverages for next week's streams because Friday was a very unpleasant day for me. I was supposed to get up and do a nighttime show and was not able to. And I don't want to do that again. I'm not actually a big giant drinker, and I don't like feeling that way. The Pulse says, if the jury finds Kyle guilty, can the judge overturn the verdict if the evidence doesn't support the prosecution's case or verdict? Yes, it's a motion for a judgment notwithstanding a verdict. I've talked about it a couple times, but yes, they can do that. It has to be brought on motion by the defense, and it is a long shot. FM says, Nick, congratulations on your streams this last week. Question: if your nose grows a bit more, would you go for plastic surgery? Nah. No. Blake Pritchard video has emerged of George Floyd's nephew admitting to photographing Rittenhouse jurors, plans intimidation lest they convict. Kyle's defense team is in possession of video. Owen Smith, thank you for the donation. Ghost of Recon says the only thing saving Kyle is the incompetence of the prosecutor. No, I think the judge is helping out. I think Sharafisi, I'm pronouncing his name, Sharafisi, whatever. However you pronounce his name, he's been doing really well, frankly. Pretty good. Good guy. Little short, kind of bald. Won't hold that against him. Kev B says, how likely would guilty on the 2 reckless endangerment charges be without any guilty homicides? I think unlikely. I think the jury, I really do think the jury is looking at all the major charges as one thing, either self-defense or not. I don't think the jury is going to be able to, well, he was self-defensing, but it was pretty reckless. I don't think that's how they're going to approach that. I do think the minor in possession charge and the curfew charge are separated enough that they will consider those differently. That's just my opinion. Randy Chase says, contrary to almost everyone, it seems, I've thought the defense has done a great job from day one. The Barnes-led bashing is a case of bitterness, in my opinion. Whatever you think about Barnes-led bashing in general, I have not judged Richards based on Barnes, other than the one thing that I have said is, if I were in Richards' shoes, I would take Barnes's help. And I can't really see turning down the free help that he turned down. My assessment of the opening statement of the defense has consistently been not great. Not great, especially when the state gave a very good opening. And then the first day of full witness testimony, which was the day after the opening statements, I thought the defense did terrible. But the next 2 days, they did great. So I don't think the defense is doing bad at this point. And I still gave the first day to the defense. Even though the opening statement wasn't ideal, I thought it got a lot of facts out. And I gave the first day, Monday, to the defense. I gave Tuesday to the prosecution because the prosecution won on Tuesday. Again, people can disagree. I'll just say that's what I think. And then I guess Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the defense did much better. Is that how that went? Something like that? No, Monday was jury selection. Sorry. Tuesday was the first day. So Tuesday for the defense, Wednesday for the prosecution, Thursday, Friday for the defense, and heavily for the defense. All right. Yashkin says, hey, Nick, try a game called Tunchy. It's a beat 'em up. Tunchy? Yashkin, if you're around, DM me that on Twitter, on Discord. DNA analysis. There are no known unknowns. No one pointed out that Rosenbaum's girlfriend didn't know the bag contents as he'd been gone for hours. Thoughts? Yeah, they could have gotten that, but they can also just say it in their closing argument. If they're trying to really get the bag contents, I don't think the bag contents are relevant. The bag could be, they're going to mention he's throwing this bag. Kyle doesn't know what's in the bag. He's throwing a bag at him. But the ultimate part of Rosenbaum, like, you're not reliant on the bag. The prosecution wants to bring this bag up a lot. You could tell. They're bringing it up with everybody. It's just a plastic bag. It's a plastic bag. It's a plastic bag. The reason they're bringing it up is because the bag is a distraction from the fact that he screams at him and reaches for his gun. That's where you got your self-defense claim. The bag, throwing the bag, it contributes to the mood, maybe the state of mind of Kyle, but the shots come significantly after the bag and removed from the bag as an action. So the bag is a distraction. I wouldn't focus on it too much. Let's see. We've got Angron, the Red Angel, says, why hasn't Bicep Boy caught any charges? Probably an unspoken deal with the prosecution, frankly. New Star 1 says he dropped N-bombs 2 times, once at Ultimate Gas, the second time with Marine Dude. Zibbert says, Cortez Rice, a relative of George Floyd, says people are taking photos of jurors. Yep, we've talked about that now. Blake Pritchard says, odds of Grosskreutz pleading the fifth, I think they're very low. And once he starts testifying, he's going to lose his ability to plead the fifth. Brian M. says, is it a conspiracy? Charlottesville trials are going on simultaneous to this more palatable, lesser right-wing court case. That trial has no media. What Charlottesville trials? I'm not aware that there are more Charlottesville trials. The last ones I remember was James Fields. That was done a long time ago. SJ Shady 0169. Oh, is that about they're saying the people who organize Charlottesville? Is that what this is? SJ Shady 0169 says, can you EL15 the whole lost drone video cover-up situation? What the hell is EL15? The judge hasn't actually ruled, if that just means cover it real quick. The judge hasn't actually ruled on the lost drone footage. The judge says he does not really understand why the state is acting like this. And if he said if there's going to be cloak and dagger stuff, let's just figure it out. But then they dismiss that witness to maybe bring back at a later date. Oh, explain it like I'm 5. Sure. The feds allegedly have had an HD recording of the thermal imaging that they did, and they allegedly deleted the video. And the defense like, WTF, bro, you got to hand that over. And the state's like, we don't control the feds. We can't make them hand it over. And the feds are like, it's deleted and gone, so we can't hand it over. And the defense is like, this is ridiculous. The state can't bring charges and use evidence if they're not going to actually produce it. So that's how that went. Dachshund's Rule says, I don't have anything witty or spicy to say. I just want to thank you for being so dedicated to Kyle. Here's $5 towards your Rittenhouse rye. Hey, thank you. Thank you. That's most of the way towards the bottle. Andrew Mueller says, post-criminal trial, do any of those that were shot have a decent case for a civil trial a la OJ? Like going after Kyle, it's going to be really tough. OJ had wrongful death, which was, it's a lower standard than murder because it's just preponderance of the evidence standard, but self-defense is a little bit different than that. And they've got a bunch of on the record evidence already. I think they'd lose. I think they'd lose a civil trial. I mean, they could bring one, but right now they're suing. Gage Grosskreutz is suing the city of Kenosha, the police department. Raul Duke says, tried Angel's Envy due to your recommendation to someone else here. Pleasant whiskey burn going down sensation was 10 times more than I've ever experienced. Very nice. Oh, it was good, man. Malik Foxton says, so I clicked play on the stream and started playing a Dave Rubin video with your chat on the right. Had to refresh. Was the weirdest thing. That's strange. Randy Chase says, when Kyle gets acquitted, please have Barnes back on to bash the defense and tell us how he would have done it. I've invited Barnes on if he has any time to come on to do live commentary. So maybe he will. We'll see. Kalinka Pavlova says, giving you $2 to make old school 987 matter. Sounds good. Randy Chase says, I guess bootlicking super chats only acknowledged, ignoring the Barnes-led defense bashing won't make anyone forget. Still a Ricada fan, though. No, dude, I did. If you're a Ricada fan, you know that I address the $20 ones first, and then I do the other ones later. Because there's so many, if I address them all as they come in, it gets really disruptive to the flow of the stream. And if I do them all at the end, it becomes a big thing. And I developed that rule to help the flow of the show. And I've done it that way for 2.5 years now, I think. So no, again, Barnes-led defense bashing. I'm not sure what you're talking about. I haven't been bashing the defense based on what Barnes said. I've been bashing the defense based on their performance that one day. And then after that, I've said the defense did good. So weird. I don't know what your criticism is, but whatever. Lane K 1978 says, what happened with the locals exclusive stream from Friday night? The VOD says it's not available now. I don't know. I'm gonna send him a message. I thought it might just be processing or something. I don't know. I didn't do anything to disable it. Brian Denham says, is it just me or does a prosecutor look like a Midwestern Littlefinger? Yes. Andrew Ulrich says, can the defense ask Grosskreutz about not allowing investigators access to his phone? Maybe. I mean, it's his constitutional right not to. So maybe. R.W. Bimby, what is Gage suing for? He got shot in the arm because the police didn't protect him. Let's see. R.W. Bimby says, Kyle pressed charges as victim of skate assault battery. Oh, I guess he could go after his estate, but he likely doesn't have any money. So I don't know what what he's going to do. I mean, the guy's dead. He can maybe try, but he cannot force the state to prosecute Grosskreutz. Wolfgang Deo says, as a Ricada fan, I know you never have structure, are always late and fey, and that you make stuff up and claim it's lore and totally what you always do. Lamau, peace, peace. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Okay. Kalinka Pavlova says, old school 978 says he'll debate you for $300 to slow down your career. Huh? Am I being petty bringing up this nobody? Yes, but it's hilarious. He's going to debate me to slow down my career. Okay. Sounds good. Blake Pritchard. I think so. He'll debate me for $300. So he's going to give me $300 to come on the show to debate. I mean, I think I would make a lot of money off of that show plus $300. Blake Pritchard says, so Officer Tom Cruise admits Kyle wasn't considered an active threat. Ongoing gunshots more important. More people with weapons than without. Jury convinced? I hope so. I hope so. We'll have to see how they... Remember, the jury's going to hear several more days of testimony, and then for closing arguments, it's the defense attorney's job to consolidate all this into a closing argument. Justin Wright says, it was mentioned during final jury selection that there was a pharmacist. There you go. SJ Shady 10169 says TLDR version, not ELI5. Lol. Crusader Saracen says, we covered that. Says men who wear Star Wars pins in public, 150% chance of impotence. Boys Mommy Tube, thank you for the donation. Firesen says, finally got out of Marine Corps boot camp. I have 3 months to catch up on. Glad I have a boomer like you, Nick, to help out with that. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Congrats making it through boot camp. Good luck. Random Blaze says, you have a Biden sniffer apologist in chat. Oh, wait, I read that one earlier in the day. Boys Mommy Tube says, during jury selection, they asked for profession, 2 pharmacists, 1 paramedic. All would know what the meds are for. President-elect Austin M says, Gage called it a war zone in TMJ4 news interview. Richards is very good with facts like that, so maybe he'll bring it up. Whoa! D says, thank you. Says, this money is so that you can get a fine Norland glass rock heavy tumbler. It's a fine whiskey glass. Treat yourself. You deserve it. Well, I think I have to order one. Thank you. Thank you so much. Kyle Miller says, there's a claim that people are taking pictures of the jurors so they can try and get similar outcome of the Chauvin trial. Yep. And Robert and I addressed that earlier. Nerd Tremble says, hey, Nick, thanks for the coverage. Sent you a Twitter DM with some legal problems I'm going through. Was hoping to get some input when you can. Yeah, man, I will try. I've been so focused on Rittenhouse this past week that I've kind of not been responding to a ton of things. And I'm sorry about that, but I've just been really busy. Donald Woolley says, Nick, please get Adam Kraut on a live stream with you Monday. He's also a lawyer and a firearms expert, and he's generally a wonderful, funny man. I don't know who that is. Is he a YouTuber? I don't know how to connect with this person. Phantom RX says, is there any time that I could be assaulted while carrying a gun and get in trouble for shooting someone? Can I always use self-defense as a claim? If you're reasonably in fear of imminent death or serious bodily harm, you typically can claim self-defense. The exceptions are if you provoke it, or if you're, engaged in some sort of criminal activity, like a robbery or a carjacking or something like that. Proud to be American says, you see Posobiec's video about the FBI witness testimony that wasn't televised. FBI sat on the video for 18 months, apparently lost a second video. I saw some of it. Yeah. Who, me? Thanks for the donation. Anti-Omnia Libertarian says, Russian name is Yevgeny Alexandrov. Well, there you go. I'm probably not going to remember that, but thank you. Thank you. I cannot read Russian words. Comrade Roof Korean the base says, Kyle wanted to be EMT, police, military. Now he wants to be a lawyer. Wade Stapleton says, is it likely the defense or prosecution teams are scouring the internet for reactions, such as streams like these, to readjust their approaches, i.e. for objections or direction of approach? Maybe. I don't know if they have the time to worry about that, frankly, and they'll probably are going to be dismissive of just Monday morning quarterbacking. But if they may have some sources that they trust that they're looking at, or they may have some people who are sources that they trust scouring the internet and giving them summaries, maybe. But it's hard to say. I don't know that you want to do too much strategy shifting mid-trial. Life of Brian says, on a scale of 1 to Emmett Till, how bad does a jury need to be to convict if things stay the way they are? They need to be pretty bad, in my opinion, to convict even at this point. Even with that bad 1 day, that was 1 day out of 10. And so, I think they're due. I think Kyle's on a good track right now. Drew said, just an Australian amazed at the American justice system. Don't worry, we're all Americans amazed at it too. John Engelbert says, do you know if the first shot desk pop guy will be called? Very curious. His motives seem to escalate the situation. No, I don't think the state's going to call him. Zeminski, I for some reason, I don't think the state's going to call him. I don't know. It's very weird. The defense might try and call him. He's not going to be a favorable witness for the defense in that he'll likely be hostile because he hates Kyle Rittenhouse. But the state would have to ask, or the defense would have to ask open-ended questions, not leading questions. That could be a mess. They had tried to treat him as hostile and see how that goes, but they'd have to ask the judge for permission to do that. So I don't know if that's going to work out. So I don't think we're going to see Zeminski on there, but it's possible, I suppose. Gonefall says, I remember when I first saw the Kyle video and thinking he was guilty. After a couple months of new evidence coming out, it became completely clear to me that Kyle was innocent. The destruction the mentally ill caused people to protect property. There you go. Yeah. I always thought he was innocent, but yeah, I know I can see where some people at the beginning would be like, oh man, blah, that he's guilty. And then you start looking at it and yeah, anyone who looks into this, I don't know how you come to any other conclusion than not guilty. Angry Bellsprout says Gravy Seal needs to be charged for being bad battle buddy. I got a DM from Marine infantryman who was talking about that. It's like, why in the hell did this guy leave his supposed battle buddy? And then he gets into the altercation that leads to all this. So yeah, it was an interesting conversation. Who me? Thank you for the donation. 200 Watt Studio says, hypothetical, if convicted felon is chased and attacked and sees a gun on the ground and shoots the person attacking him, still self-defense, right? Yes. Yeah. As long as, again, objective and subjective fear of imminent death or bodily harm. Serious bodily harm. Matthew Spriggs says, I heard Grosskreutz screaming dog on camera for the first time this week. It was glorious. FAFO giant man child. How will he do on the stand? Could be a disaster. That's why I'm looking forward to it. It could be a real mess. Warrock of Chagora says, will the statements of Bicep Boy be used against him on cross? It should be. It depends on if the defense wants to do it. Dave Guerrera says, on behalf of your liver, thanks for not drinking this evening. Whew. Al Riffer says, you need to look deeper into Josh Zeminski. He co-conspired with Rosenbaum to ambush Kyle. Binger is covering it up. It's all in the FLIR video. No, I've seen the videos of them walking together. I just don't know prior to the evening how much more they knew of each other. It is I've seen it, but if it doesn't get introduced at trial, it's not going to do anybody any good. And again, maybe Grosskreutz, well, I don't know. Maybe the defense has looked at it and they're going to try and bring it in somehow. Birdbath Bash, thank you for the donation. Caligula says, appreciate you doing a super chat catch up. I do work very hard to make sure every super chat gets read. And sometimes the Friday was just a mess. I would have been reading for a long time after streaming 10 hours. It just wasn't going to work. Also, I had to pause for a few minutes because IRL sucks. You were hilarious at 1.5 speed when I catch up. Thank you. Bird Bath Bash says, would you put Kyle on the stand? No. No, not at all. FM says, Nick, you're one of the less entertaining people in YouTube and also in the world. Thank you. I appreciate that. Does it matter? Says, I keep hearing that self-defense is on trial, that if Kyle gets hosed, then we all lose our ability to defend ourselves. What precedent would be set by that travesty regarding this case? No legal precedent, only just in the minds of everybody. That's the thing. It's on public trial, but it's not on a law trial. Christ is King says, love your analysis and breakdown. Thank you. Comrade Roof Curry in the base says, during limine, prosecutor didn't want to make it about the cops they spent a year demonizing, were the cops persuaded to testify the way they did. Squizguard 2322 says, theory, Binger doesn't actually care about the murder charges. He wants reckless endangerment charges stick so they can throw anyone who uses a rifle caliber to defend themselves. Possible. Revixy says, how can Kyle be considered a white supremacist when Kyle literally avoided 4 black men? Men shot white men who attacked him. American logic equals 0. No, prosecutor logic and Antifa and BLM logic. Zek says, Kyle's mistake is not shooting bicep commie more. Scorpion P2C says, if it was a mistrial because of jurors being photoed, would the DA be able to run it back with another jury, or is it just over at that point? They could re-bring the charges on a mistrial. That is possible. But they don't always do that. So it'd be hard. Kevin W says, for volume problems tomorrow, have a second microphone directed at a stream. No, that would be terrible. Ted Kaczynski says, packages ready, Nick. Oh, thank you, Ted Kaczynski. Casey Anderson says, in regards to the crazy woman who sues everyone, check out the video, This Is Not Happening, Ari Schaffer, the Holy Spirit. It's hilarious. Gaius Naughtius Caesar says, in Halo announcer voice, double kill. Twitch shot. Next, we've got Rosenbaum's dead, violets are blue. Reminder that Terry Bradshaw has been in Pfizer's pockets for years now, pimping out Pfizer products to treat pneumonia. And now for LaCouf, Rogers egotistical, but Terry's a greedy snake in the grass. There you go. I guess that's in regards to Aaron Rodgers controversy going on, which I have only barely seen. All right. JD Free says, I agree. It would be great if you had Dave Smith on. He's hilarious and super based. I think it would be a great conversation. I don't know who Dave Smith is, but he sounds interesting. Kay Scott says, Kyle got donations of $2 million for bail. Does he get to keep it? He's supposed to. If he wins, the bail money and complies with his probation during trial or his release conditions, then the bail money should be returned to him. Lynn Wood wants it back, though. So there might be a fight there. Rice Jones says, the Marine acted like guys I know wished he got into combat and resented anyone who does. He wanted to be in Kyle's shoes. Could be. Ghost 5103 says, sing me a ballad. What ballad? I don't really want to sing. Chank Sayatome says, in Jesse Ventura voice, coming Monday, Kyle the pedo predator, coming Monday, Kyle the pedo perforator, the vandal ventilator, Rittenhouse versus Gage, the one-armed bandit Grosskreutz. Will the government be involved? It always is. Blaine 20 says, apparently George Floyd's cousin is calling for the doxing of Kyle's jurors. Yep. Angry Bainling says, congrats on 180,000 subs. By the way, may you hit 200,000 soon. Hey, thank you. Thank you. A bunch of stars says, Barnes tends to be more right than he is wrong. I believe he genuinely wants the best for Kyle. He has been in the game for a while. Yeah, again, people can make up their own minds on Barnes. So, Todd Davis, welcome to the channel as a paralegal. Thank you. Max Efrat says, people should consider the fact that if Rosenbaum grabs a gun with 2 hands, Kyle can't stop the trigger from being pulled and the spraying of the crowd. Correct. Danger to others. Bad Dragonite says, don't be fooled. The nose is the one with the law license. Congrats on 180K, by the way. Thank you. Yeah, subs have been going through the roof. We actually passed 181,000 earlier today, and we're a good deal towards 182. So may it keep going. Todd Davis says, YouTube doc interviews also help with ideas of how the case unfolds. Bicep shot guy gave several interviews that help paint his perspective. The New York Times doc on YouTube is about 20 minutes. Hopefully, again, it's up to Richards and Sharafsi, however, to bring those things into the situation if Gage tries to say something that runs inconsistent with it. As Cybertaz says, Rip Gunt Mobile. What? I don't know what does that mean? Is it something to do with Ralph? Blaine 20 says, were Huber and Sauerkraut in the right to use deadly force to try and stop a felon fleeing justice, given that people were saying Kyle just killed someone? I've always been confused on that. I've talked about this a couple times. It is entirely possible. I don't think this is true, but it is entirely possible that Anthony Huber and Gage Grosskreutz, had they killed Kyle, they could have a colorable claim of self-defense themselves, saying that they believed that he was an active shooter. Now, if they did believe he was an active shooter, does that in any way impact Kyle Rittenhouse's self-defense claim? Not legally. It does not legally impact the self-defense claim because it's about his state of mind. And would a reasonable person in his situation be in imminent fear of death or gross bodily harm? That's it. Their state of mind is maybe relevant for explaining their actions, but Kyle's state of mind is the one that's on trial. So their state of mind doesn't matter. They can both believe they have a reasonable claim to self-defense. That can both things can be true. Again, I don't think Huber or Grosskreutz actually did, because I really just don't. I mean, call me biased maybe, but I just don't believe it. D Carr says, are jurors allowed to take notes? Usually, yes. Rumpley Depew says, always love and appreciate your legal mind, wit, sense of humor, receding hairline, and aggressively large booger factory. Ace Brain 2003 says, you're not allowed to hit 200,000 subs until you give us that promise 100,000 24-hour stream. I was just talking to my kids about that today. Historic Stuff says, I wouldn't know. I only killed commies. Mandy Kervickus says, can you do Al Pacino impressions? I bet you can. If I'd heard him recently, yeah, I could. But the best Al Pacino impression is Kevin Spacey doing Al Pacino impressions. Those are great. But yeah, I mean, I used to do Al Pacino impressions when I was watching his movies more recently, but I'll have to work on one for you. As Cybertaz says, Gunt's car got totaled. Oh, that sucks for him. You know, I guess I wouldn't want my car totaled. So how'd that happen? You can just tag me. You don't have to send a super chat about it. Okay. 200 Watt Studio says, fugitive with Kyle and Grosskreutz as one-armed man. Jeff H says, after Kyle's acquittal, I hope we can all take a moment and appreciate how hard this trial shat on Rosenbaum. Your Honor, Mr. Rosenbaum was clearly too tiny, insane, and stupid to threaten anyone. That was so funny. He's a little guy, right? Not really a threat to anybody. This guy is trying to nipple muscle everybody else, right? He's doing that this whole time. Shoot me, you can't get me. And everybody's just like supposed to be like put their hand on his forehead while he swings left and right. Oh, just embarrassing. Just embarrassing. But yeah, but Rosenbaum deserves eternally to be shit on. Because that's what happens when you're especially a violent offending pedophile. Like, get out. Should have happened years ago. Vapid Zero says, yeah, 5'3", but kind of stocky at 150. Yeah, he's not a little squirrely guy. Like, he looks like he's got a bigger frame than I do, other than the fact that I would tower over him in embarrassing fashion. If you shrunk me down to 5'3", I would be more slight than him. All right, guys. That's what I've got for the show. I'm going to go, I think I'm going to go catch some Z's because we've got a trial resuming at 9 in the morning tomorrow. The stream should be starting at 8:45 a.m. tomorrow morning, Central Time. Don't forget daylight savings occurred. So we, here in Minnesota, we backed up an hour, but it's the 8:45 a.m. Central Time is when I will start the stream. 9 a.m. Central Time, we should be in the courtroom shortly thereafter. So make sure you come check it out. I'm going to end this stream and make the link directly for that so that it's up overnight and people will have it. I will put it up on Locals. I will put it up on Twitter. I will put it up on Gab and Minds and the Fediverse, as well as I do with pretty much every stream. Not 100% on all those, but it'll go up on Locals and Twitter for sure. So check me out over on Locals. If you always want to have a notification when I go live, you can sign up for Locals for free. If you want to join the community for $5 a month or more, you certainly can. And then you get access to some exclusive content. And I might hit the hot tub tonight, in all honesty, before I go to bed. I might do a hot tub stream. I'm thinking about it. I'm really thinking about it because, man, do I really want to get in the hot tub as it's cold. Ooh, we might be in a hot tub. All right, guys. We will see you guys later. I hope you have a good night. Oh, Wolfgang Deo says 2 more. Thank you very much. All right, guys. Thanks a bunch. Maybe I'll see you on Locals in just a minute. I'm going to grab a snack and another beverage, and then we'll see. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow. I think it's going to be a huge day. Make sure you share it around so that other people can come, so we can have, I'm hoping we break 15,000 people tomorrow. Let's start putting these other news sources to shame. Let's start showing people what a good, fun way to consume a serious event is, rather than, like Fox or CNN, especially like CNN, because those people are terrible. Wolfgang Deo says, peace, peace. And so do I. Peace. Peace. Give me
Your Honor, I'm pretty sure we have a mistrial here, sir.
I'm gonna mistrial my foot up your ass. You don't shut up.